All right, here we go. We're live. Sorry about the delay. It took me a second to get everything set up, and dinner ran a little bit later than expected, but a very good meal, might I say. So can't complain about that. But it's Quizmas. Merry Quizmas to everyone, as we're going to be taking hopefully a few quizzes today on this stream. We're going to be finally redoing the quarterback ranking quiz, which I did all the way back in June. Hard to believe it was that long ago. It might have actually even been late May. I went back and watched it the other day, but I didn't check what date it was. But we've got that. We might even do some Sporkle quizzes because it's been a long time since I've done those on here, and I do enjoy those. It's just been a long time since I've done those in general. And yeah, we're gonna talk some news here as well. I'm still getting used to this new setup here. This is my second stream back in Fargo, still in Fargo for the time being. But as always, just feel free to say hello if you're in chat. Pop on in and we'll get started here in a little bit. But I'm trying to adjust my volume a little bit too. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay right now. I am still rocking the OG mic. You might not be able to see it because of the new setup, but I've been tweaking around with it some because I think I finally realized why it was so loud. Like if you go back and watch some of my streams, it gets really, really loud. And I think it has to do with a setting on my Mac. Now, I didn't have time to go change that today. I think it sounds fine right now, but we shall see for sure. But just to make sure that my tweet is up here, just got to check a few things. There's always a lot of screens going on, as you guys know, but yeah, got Christine in here. I don't know why I can't see the chat on my computer because I've got the double monitor here. If I scroll down, I don't know why it's not letting me do that earlier, but Christine is in here. Welcome to the stream, Christine, saying the doctor is in, and nice jacket. Thank you. It was well, I mean, you know this, but some people might not know, but it was a Christmas gift from my parents. A Vikings vintage starter pullover, and you know what? It's just so sick. I decided I had to pull it out. I had to rock it for the stream tonight. So here we are, rocking the jacket. Yeah, it's starter and homage. It's homage or homage. I know like people pronounce it different ways, but they have a little collab going. They've got a lot of different jackets. And yeah, this was just too sweet for me to pass up. So definitely not sponsored or anything. I'd love to be one day maybe. But we're going to switch it back to the other camera here. As you can see, I'm still in my dad's office / my old childhood bedroom. And most of the things in here are my dad's, like the 3 guitars or the largemouth bass that you can see behind me. Although that is pretty sweet. I wish that was mine, but the printer. I had to move some stuff around. We had like wrapping paper and like gift bags and stuff on the floor, and I just had to like pick it all up and move it around and try to make it a little bit cleaner. It's definitely not the cleanest, but I can't complain when I get to use an actual webcam and a ring light and a dual monitor, which I think for sure I'm going to be investing in here over these next few months as I've got some more money coming in. So yeah, exciting stuff. But so you've got 3 people in here. I think one of them is me monitoring chat. I've also got my phone up. So actually, Christine, you might be the only one in here right now. So how does it feel? It's got to be an honor, huh? How's your day been? I know you had your day off of work today. Able to get some nice rest and relaxation in. Enjoy your day off of work. I know you mentioned you're going to be cleaning your room. Good luck with that. I say that like your room is messy. It's much cleaner than mine typically is. I'm having so much trouble trying to get chat pulled up on my monitor right now. I like having it up so then my phone is free and then I can just like look at the monitor while I talk. So it's just a little bit easier, but kind of doing that. So you're currently working on your room right now. Nice. It is an honor, you know? Not often you get one-on-one time with the doctor while he's on a stream. Oh, and now, hold on. Now everything is gone. There we go. Now you got 4 people in here. We got people coming in and out. But, this will work. This setup I have right here. You guys can't see my other screen, but Um, as long as I'm able to see chat and make sure that OBS is up and running, we're chilling. But hopefully you can hear me okay. I don't have like it up on my phone or anything. I would assume so. But all right, so we're gonna dive in. We won't do the quiz just yet. We're gonna wait till we got some more people in here. But we're gonna switch over to here and we're gonna talk some news because this has been one of the crazier Wednesdays in the NFL. Not often you can say that, even like during the season. But we've had a few just of the most bizarre and insane stories that I've ever seen happen both today. So the first one, this one broke a little bit later in the day. Christine says the volume is good. That's always good to hear. But Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited, the man that spawns many takes, is being benched for Jarrett Stidham for the final 2 weeks of the season. Very similar to the situation we saw with Derek Carr on the Raiders last year. First year head coach coming in, and it's clear that maybe he wasn't the biggest fan of the incumbent quarterback. And now Wilson. Oh, they did him so dirty with that graphic if you're watching that video right now. Broncos country, let's sit. Good Lord. Oh, just absolutely destroyed him. But so he's going to be benched for the next few games. So Russell Wilson has had a very interesting season, and we'll dive more into this once we get to this ranking quiz. But, a lot of his raw numbers, more numerical counting stats, right? They actually look pretty good. He's got a nice touchdown to interception ratio. Yards isn't bad considering the climate of today's league with how, maybe it's been a little bit harder to pass the ball, which it's a little teaser for the next project I'm working on. But overall, you feel like, hey, maybe he's had a solid season. You've seen glimpses of the old Russ. You think of those touchdowns to Cortland Sutton in prime time, right? The one he had against the Vikings, the one he had against the Bills. I mean, just some of the old playmaking, and obviously not like prime Russ, right? I think we all can agree that that was no longer there. But, for 35-year-old quarterback who just looked completely gone last year, not too bad. However, as that mean little ESPN graphic might indicate, has not had the greatest run here these past few weeks. The Broncos' win streak ended, and now they've lost 3 of their last 4. Hasn't played the greatest. He had 3 interceptions in that big game against the Texans, another one, and then no interceptions the last 2 weeks, but hasn't been playing his best football. Pocket awareness hasn't always been there. The offense hasn't been there, and I mean, losing to the 2023 Patriots is never a good thing. However, I mean, that being said, overall he's been fine, I feel like. Like, he's probably been a starting caliber quarterback. The problem is he's not getting paid to be a starting caliber quarterback. He was not traded for to be a starting caliber quarterback. He was traded to be a star and getting paid like a star. And so apparently the real juicy part is, right, it's one thing to say like, okay, whatever, Sean Payton just doesn't like him. He's not living up to his contract or how much they paid to get him. They're just going to bench him for reasons. They're trying to reset. Here's what's crazy. So allegedly, and I don't know if it's in this ESPN story, I did see this on Twitter, and, this was reported by Bleacher Report, I think. But if we look it up here, it has to do with his contract, which, I mean, if you guys keep track of contracts, this is one of the worst contracts in the league. And it has to do with the injury clause, I believe. Injury guarantee, that's the language used in the contract. And so apparently, I mean, where did it go? Here, this is the tweet that I saw. And yes, I'm still calling it that. Whatever. So the Broncos tried to get Russell Wilson to remove his injury guarantees a few weeks ago. And the only reason that they're benching him is because they don't want to pay him. They tried to get him to waive the guaranteed parts of his contract and make him less expensive, more or less. Pretty much, they're trying to not honor his contract, I guess. I mean, they will have to probably, right? I mean, I totally understand. Russell Wilson's like, what the heck? No, like, you guys gave me this money. You owe me this money. I'm not just going to, like, waive a substantial chunk of change. But apparently he and the Broncos were at odds, and they kept threatening to bench him, and then they stuck him out. And ironically, this is kind of when their win streak happened, right? But apparently this has been brewing for a while, and now I saw another tweet that he's expecting to be cut. Diana Rossini reporting this, pretty reputable source. So that's kind of crazy, from potentially looking like a comeback player of the year candidate during their win streak. And, you know, the Broncos are still very much fighting for a playoff spot. If you play around with the ESPN playoff machine, they actually have a decent chance to make it. If they went out in a fairly decent schedule, they will probably make it. But it's going to be Jarrett Stidham now, who actually looked solid for the Raiders last year when he got some time to play. But it's a mess right now. I'm not going to lie. I've never had much respect for Sean Payton outside of like his football acumen, right? He is obviously a very good coach, but questionable character. And I don't know. This whole thing just kind of reeks. And maybe this is all just a PR stunt. I mean, who knows what the actual truth is? This story just came out, so... But it is one of the crazier stories that I've seen, where there's this team in a playoff push. They have not made the playoffs since they won the Super Bowl, which was a while ago. It was 8 years ago at this point. They've not made the playoffs since then. Here they are fighting for their playoff lives, and they've got this quarterback who's supposed to like take him there, take him to the promised land. Hasn't quite lived up to expectations, but been better this year. And they're going to kick him to the curb over money. It's crazy. And Sean Payton never liked Russell Wilson to begin with. I think that's pretty obvious from the moment he was hired. Just some of the stuff he was saying. And, I mean, you know, we'll get into more of this later, but some of these Russell Wilson stats are maybe a little fake because they are really just not trusting him to do anything in this offense. He is not being asked to do a whole lot. They don't want him doing a whole lot. And I don't know. Some of the games where he has had to do a whole lot, they have not won. Some of them they have, though, but that was also against, like, the Commanders. No, they lost to the Commanders, yeah. So it's been a really weird year for Russell Wilson, but he's been playing all right. I wonder if he'll start somewhere else next year. Maybe if his financial situation is a little different, someone might pick him up as a bridge guy. I don't see him being much more than that at this point, though, which is just crazy. It's also crazy to see he's 35. That does not seem right. But he's 35 years old. But that was the one insane story. And then the other one. And this one, I mean, this is truly hilarious. And I may be reveling in this as a Vikings fan a little bit. But Jair Alexander has been suspended because of a coin toss incident. So, and this... It's worth noting they're suspending him for an absolutely massive game, by the way. As you guys probably know, Vikings and Packers playing on Sunday night. And they're probably going to be without, they chose to suspend him. They're going to be without their star corner, Jair Alexander, going up against Justin Jefferson because he essentially anointed himself, as they say in this article, as one of the Packers captains. He went out onto the field with the captains. He was not a captain last week, but he went out onto the field with the captains for the coin toss, ended up making the call for the coin toss, and ended up calling it incorrectly. So, like, you know how, like, in Madden, you choose, like, if you want to kick or receive, or you could choose to either that or pick which way you're going, right? That's not how it actually works in the NFL. You either can pick or you can defer your choice to the second half. So most teams, they defer to the second half, right? They win the toss and they're like, you know what, we're going to choose if we want to kick or get the ball for the start of the second half. And they always choose to get the ball, right? But Jair Alexander made the mistake of thinking it was like Madden. And he said that we want to kick. And he got very lucky that the referee was in a nice mood and corrected him and said, are you sure? Like, that's not how that works. You probably mean that you want to defer. And then they ended up deferring. But had that ref not said anything, the Packers would have kicked to start both halves. And we've actually seen that before. I think it was the Cowboys. A few years ago, they made that mistake where they said, we want to kick, and the referee didn't correct them. And so they ended up kicking to start both halves. But apparently that warranted a suspension. Matt LaFleur not pleased with Alexander, as they're saying. But goodness gracious. I mean, yeah, that really could have come back to bite him, especially in a 3-point game. I mean, the Packers won by 3. And now he is going to not be playing in their biggest game of the year. Probably because of this. I just think it's insane. I get you can't have guys going rogue, right? It's not a good look. You got to set an example. But it is kind of crazy that they're just going to suspend him. I mean, they could very well end up missing the playoffs because of this. But we'll see. We'll see. Also, I'm Bofa. I know that's probably not what it is, but it looks like Bank of America. Okay. Sorry. The phrasing with the headline. If you know, you know with Bofa. But Christine says, yoicks. Yoicks is right. I mean, I truly have never seen anything like that before. A player getting suspended because of a mutiny where they just appoint themselves as captain and they go out onto the field for the coin toss with the captains, even though they were not a captain. And then, like, the funniest thing is, like, he posted on Instagram, like, a picture of him out on the field with the captains. Like, I don't know. It's bizarre, honestly. Oh, welcome to the stream, Benny. Good to see you in here. Says, sheesh, and should be more people here. Yeah, we got 7 in here right now. You know, maybe a different crowd here on a Wednesday night, but welcome to the stream. Good to have you in here. Christine seconding that message. It's an interesting time right now. I'll definitely grant you that. Says this channel is amazing. Thank you. I gotta ask, and also, I gotta ask, are you new from my last video? Because I know I have gained a few subs since then. If you are, welcome to the channel. Good to have you in here, joining the Dr. Pigskin family. But I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Very informative and detailed. Thank you. Well, we got more of that coming. Don't you worry. We've already started on our next video. Did a lot of research today. Been doing a lot of research on Patrick Mahomes recently. We're going to try and get to the bottom of the Kansas City Chiefs and maybe even get to the bottom of why, as I kind of hinted at earlier, why, you know, there hasn't been as many gaudy stats recently. There's been lower scores and, you know, looking at the passing yards, we've only got 2 guys over 4,000 yards so far, when just a few years ago, you know, that was just obscene. I mean, let's go back to 2018. We got Alex in here. Welcome to the stream, Alex. Good to have you in here. I don't know if you've ever been lurking on these before, but it's good to see you in here. How's your travel been? I believe, are you guys back in Iowa by now? Oh, so you subbed after the Jags video. Wow, okay, so you've been here for a while. Well, good to have you here. Good to have you here along for the ride, man. Oh, that was a classic, the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, it's unfortunate. Has not quite worked out like I hoped it would. But man, I don't know. We'll see. They just need to get healthy. Trevor Lawrence needs to just dust the cobwebs out of his brain a little bit, right? I still believe, baby. But it's been a slightly disappointing year. With that being said, they're probably going to make the playoffs, but you watched them all. Well, thank you, man. Appreciate that. And Alex says, unfortunately. Well, hopefully the roads were a little bit better. Yeah. Crazy Midwest weather, huh? For those that have not had the privilege of living in the Midwest, we've had some freezing rain recently, and that has been an adventure, to say the least. Not often it rains on Christmas Day in North Dakota, but here we are. But anyways, getting back on my train of thought, I mean, look, 2 5,000-yard passers, and then a bunch of guys in the high 4,000s. I mean, shoot, man. We had 12 4,000-yard passers just a few years ago, and now here we are. You'd think with the way the league was trending, right, more offense, but past few years it hasn't quite been that way. We've still got 2 games to go, but, well, back in 2018 it was only 16 games, so I don't think we'll see 12 4,000-yard passers. Maybe we will. I don't know. These guys might sneak in with the extra game, but I bet if you did yards per game, it'd be a lot lower. But yeah, just thought I'd hit the news here, give some time for people to settle in here. As finally, been teasing this for so long, and we're going to drag this down a little bit just to give you guys the full view here. Finally, we're going to dive into the quarterback ranking quiz. Now, if you guys are OGs here with this channel, I realized dragging it down, you might not be able to see the names, but I don't know. You guys are smart enough. You probably don't need them. Bugs me, though. I don't know. I'm very particular about certain things. Excuse me. But we did this back in the summer, and we're going to do it again now that the season is almost done. The quarterback ranking quiz. It's pretty simple if you guys haven't done this before. You just pick which quarterback you think is better, and it'll show your progress bar up here. And then based off your choices, once it's all done, it will rank the quarterbacks for you. And I believe there's actually more than 32 on here. I believe it's like 36 or something. Now, I saw on Twitter that maybe they updated it, although I'm not sure because some of my friends did this like a week and a half ago, and it wasn't fully updated, but it has all the rookies and stuff. I mean, it has everyone that you need on there. But I'm just very interested to see how this changes now that the season has been underway for a little bit. It's almost done. Sorry, I am like all out of sorts right now. Need some more water. It's been a good holiday season, but it's definitely time to get back, put the nose to the grindstone for Dr. Pigskin. But, so how are we going to do this? Pretty similar to last time, if you guys watched the previous stream. I mean, it's going to be a little bit more organized. But, every time a new quarterback comes up, I'm going to give my thoughts on them, right? Just general thoughts on their game, how good I think they are, right? So, obviously for Hurts and Herbert, they're both up here first, so we'll talk about them first. And then I'll say which one is better. And the criteria for who I think is better is pretty simple, right? I factor in a few things. I factor in talent and production, and that's about it. I say a few things. That's about it. It's just general vibes. I mean, you guys get it, right? Just who is the better quarterback, and there's a few different things you can factor in. I'll try and be as transparent as I am about why I pick certain guys over certain guys, maybe. But we're just going to dive right in. I'm going to take a swig of water first, take a breath, because already we've got an interesting one, and I think I'm going to change my answer from when I did this last time. All right. Stay hydrated, my friends. So first up, Justin Hurts. Wow. Dude, I don't know what it is right now. Like, I'm not on my A game. Justin Hurts. That sounds similar enough, I guess. It could be easy to mess up. Right, we're all human. But Justin Herbert or Jalen Hurts, first one. So let's start off with good old Justin Herbert. Maybe one of the most controversial quarterbacks in the league. And Christine gives me a hard time saying who. Yeah, even you know that's not his name. But one of the most controversial quarterbacks in the league, which is ironic because it's not about who he is as a person whatsoever. Like, he's like this super introverted fisherman from Oregon, just like super quiet, like just goes about his business, you know. Honestly, he's like Wonder Bread as a person. He's controversial because there just seems to be this big divide on how good people think he is. And there's a very strong vocal contingent group of people that think he's overrated and he's not a winner and he's a bum and a fraud. And then there's an equally strong and vocal contingent of people that think, man, he's like the second best quarterback in the league. How dare Brandon Staley ruin him? How dare everyone drop his passes? He's so good. I promise. And I tend to find myself in the middle, which is kind of a boring answer, but it's tough because I just feel like these two groups are so dug in. Their heels are so dug in on their take on him, right? So the reason I'm in the middle is because I tend to agree that Justin Herbert is an extremely talented quarterback. He does a lot of things great, and it's more than just like the arm strength. The rocket arm, the big size, that's what jumps out right away, right? That's the reason he was drafted, I believe, 6th overall, was just this raw upside, this unbelievable talent. I mean, one of the strongest arms the league has ever seen. Can make some outrageous throws. a good enough athlete that he can make throws on the move, on the run. He's a little bit of a threat as a runner. Obviously, being 6'6", that helps too, right? He does a lot of things really, really well. But his true superpower is he's just like this giant cyborg at quarterback with a rocket attached to his arm, and that he is this super processor, right? His game, honestly, is getting the ball out quick, making quick reads. Like, he's a very quarterbacky quarterback in that he does a lot of the boring things really, really well, right? I think Justin Herbert is an excellent quarterback, and we've seen him turn in some fantastic performances. We've seen him turn in some great seasons. Now, the big criticism with him, and this is probably the big criticism for the anti-Herbert crowd, is that, oh, he's not a winner. He doesn't have that dog in him. He's not a leader, a motivator. He doesn't have the it factor, right? And, you know, on paper, it does kind of sound ridiculous, right? When the Chargers are losing these games and their defense is playing poorly, it's like, man, Justin Herbert just can't motivate his defense. That's what they kind of sound like. However, there's at least just a tiny bit of me that almost understands. I won't even say understands the point, right? Because here's, and not to throw anyone under the bus, the problem with criticizing Justin Herbert is that the anti-Herbert crowd is led by people like Emmanuel Acho, who just routinely get dunked on, right? Honestly, it's not a very strong alliance. However, I guess my big thing is there's usually a strong correlation between like the third best quarterback in the league and leading a very successful and good team. Like, fair or not, I like just think throughout the time that you guys have watched the NFL, right? Because a lot of the pro Herbert crowd, they insist that Justin Herbert is like the third best quarterback in the league. And I think from a talent standpoint, yeah, sure, right? You could say he's like an elite talent up there with the very best. But I guess my big thing is that talent needs to consistently translate into results. And it's not even just wins, but like consistent good performances. And I think my big thing with Justin Herbert is he's an extremely talented player with a high ceiling, but he doesn't consistently play to his high ceiling, but some people evaluate him as if he does. That's my thing. There's a very long, I don't know if I'm going to talk about every quarterback for that long because that was a lot, but I did really want to get that off my chest because I like to think that I have a nice, nuanced, good Justin Herbert take. So I would say, if I had to guess for where he's going to land on this list, I would say like around 7 or 8, but he certainly has room to grow more. But he is very good. His team has let him down sometimes, but also, I mean, if you're like the third best quarterback, you kind of got to put up and like elevate your team a little bit. I've seen other quarterbacks do more with less. That's what I'll say. But it is not all his fault. So we got Mile Marker in here. Welcome to the stream, Mile Marker. Says, hi all. The doctor teaching A? Excellent. Well, good to have you in here, Mile Marker. And I gotta say, I'll just address the elephant or the lion in the room right now. Congratulations to the Detroit Lions for winning the division. You know what? You guys got us, man. It was y'all's year. It was a tough loss on Sunday, but it's y'all's time. Enjoy it. Oh, tough loss, but you know what? We got 2 games to bounce back, but good time to be a Lions fan right now. So cheers to you, Mile Marker. All right, let's talk about Jalen Hurts, shall we? Jalen Hurts. Last time I did this, I called him a top 5 quarterback. Yeah, I take that back. He's another guy who we have seen his ceiling, as we've got Mile Marker saying yay in here, getting fired up. Why not, right? Go enjoy it. Jalen Hurts' ceiling was on full display for the entire country to see during the Super Bowl, right? We saw everything. We saw the power running. We saw a much improved arm. We saw playmaking out of structure, big plays down the field. That is Jalen Hurts' MO. He has a very high average depth of target. He likes to push that ball downfield. He's got the playmakers to do it. He lets it rip. And you know what? Fair or not, he is a culture setter, man. He is a leader. The team gets behind him. It's very clear that this team was tailor-made for him, and he runs the offense really well. Now, that being said, that is also kind of fair or not, a penalty against him. Um, he clearly has not looked as good this year without Shane Steichen. That loss has hurt him and the Eagles greatly. Their passing attack is in and out of rhythm a lot. Some of that is the play calling. Some of that is him, right? He is a good quarterback, but he has limitations. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He can't consistently hit those tight windows. He can sometimes. He's a little turnover prone. And I don't want to say he's a brotherly shove merchant because that's unfair. Like, that's just what they do, right? And he executes it, man. And they run it better than anyone else. But I don't know. Not every rushing touchdown is created equal. And he has 15 of them now, which is the record. But that's a little misleading. I won't go out and say oh, he has 15 rushing touchdowns, therefore he's a better runner than Lamar Jackson. As a runner, he's very powerful, but he doesn't have a ton of burst. He's not as dangerous in the open field as some of the other top runners. And I don't know, that's kind of reflected in his yards per carry. Some of that is because, again, the brotherly shove, and they're just trying to get 1 yard, and yeah, that's going to hurt his yards per carry. But his yards per carry, at least for a quarterback, was pretty low even before they started running that. And Venny with a very good point here, and a fun fact that Shane Steichen was Herbert's OC during his first season. Yeah, people forget that. Shane Steichen was on the Chargers. That's crazy. Very, very valid point. So Shane Steichen has worked his magic with both these quarterbacks. But Hurts is good, right? The accuracy can be there. Not outrageous arm talent, but it's good enough. He does a really good job at extending the play. Again, hitting those big shot plays downfield. Good power runner. Not elite, though. And I think this year is showing that maybe he's closer to a borderline top 10 than he is without a doubt, top 5 quarterback. And he's in a perfect offense right now, but we'll see how long that lasts because he's about to get paid a lot of money. And, maybe Kelsey retires soon. The offensive line doesn't fully stay intact. But right now, the vibes are good. But I'm going to go Justin Herbert. That was a very long one. I'll try and speed it up here some, maybe. But I went Hurts over Herbert last time. I think I've fully changed my mind now. Even though this has not been Herbert's best year, I don't know. I think I maybe got a little too caught up in the Super Bowl performance from Jalen Hurts. I got to stew with that all of last offseason. Now that we've seen another year, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, if you put Justin Herbert on the Eagles, yeah, that's a wrap. All right, so this appears to be the same quiz as last time. I'm okay with that, though, but this is the same order because now we've got Derek Carr and Dak Prescott. And I kind of laughed at this one last time. And, man, watching that back, I was like, oh, yeah, I was right. But Derek Carr, Dak Prescott. Derek Carr, oh, boy, you want to talk about struggling in the pocket sometimes. Derek Carr has been public enemy number 1 in New Orleans because I think he's the perfect embodiment of what this Saints regime has done, in that they are more or less settling for being good enough and challenging for the 7 seed. And, after doing that for a few years, it kind of gets old. And I don't blame Saints fans for being a little upset because they're used to contending for Super Bowls under Sean Payton and Drew Brees. And so I totally get them being like, come on, guys, the Sean and Drew era was 4 years ago. Let it go. It's over. Let's just move on and rebuild. We don't need Derek Carr dragging us in for the 7 seed just to get walloped by probably the Lions or the 49ers or Eagles or whatever, right? I used to really like Derek Carr. He had a very close to MVP caliber season, but that was all the way back in 2016. Then he got hurt. And man, he's just not been the same quarterback since. He really hasn't. The mojo is gone. I mean, I haven't watched a ton of the Saints this year, but what I have just kind of makes me sad. This offense should be better than it is. And again, some of it you can chalk up to play calling not being the greatest, but you've got Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara. You've got some really great weapons to work with. Michael Thomas. And it just hasn't been there. And after the season he had last year and the season he had this year, Derek Carr is a fringe starter at this point. I'm not super high on him. His best days are behind. Dak Prescott, on the other hand, is turning in one of the best seasons of his career. Maybe the best season. And that's even with a few losses now like in mind, right? The Cowboys had their great win streak, and it's like, oh my gosh, is Dak Prescott going to win MVP? And man, if you've been watching these streams, I was kind of beating that drum for a little bit. And, maybe after that blowout to the Bills and then losing to the Dolphins, that has fairly died down. But he's still playing some excellent football. He's up near the top in pretty much every stat, both regular and advanced, and he's looking as good as ever. The big thing I've been preaching the whole time with him is that swagger is back with him a little bit. He's playing with the most swag since that 2020 season. He had that insane start the COVID year, and then he gets injured, and, it was a bad ankle injury. And for the past few years after that, he is definitely what I would consider a pocket passer. Probably almost too much for a little bit, where it's just like, man, like, Dak Prescott is not like a great athlete, but just move a little bit. Just move some. Create some. Just a little bit. And this season, I think, was the first where we finally started to see him do that again. And he seems to be playing a lot looser, right? There was so much talk about his interceptions last year. I think that this year proved for sure that that was a fluke. A lot of dropped passes and tipped passes leading to those picks last season. Historically, his interception rate is like one of the lowest in the NFL. It's one of the lowest of all time, actually, if you go look that up. But he's letting it rip down the field again. And ever since Mike McCarthy kind of switched up the offense and cut Dak loose a little bit, the offense has been really good. And as I said on this stream last time, pretty much every season Dak Prescott is healthy, the Cowboys offense is really good. And it's been that case now. It's been the case now with 3 different play callers. So that's a pretty good sign for Dak. I like Dak a lot. Pretty easy to go him over Derek Carr. And another fun fact here from Venny. Eagles head coach was on the Chargers QB quality control. Oh yeah, Nick Sirianni, right? Yeah, that Chargers and Eagles staff, they had a little bit of crossover. I did forget about that. That's crazy. Yeah. And he was also the offensive coordinator for the Colts when they had Frank Reich. Oh boy, Desmond Ridder and Baker Mayfield. I won't laugh at Baker as much this time around, which this is another one I'm going to change because I picked Ridder last time and yikes, that aged poorly. Desmond Ridder. Oh, you know what? We've had our fun with him on these streams, right? I've been a little mean to Desmond Ridder at some points. I say this, I have no hate in my heart for Desmond Ridder. I honestly kind of feel bad for him. That man's been through a lot this year. And he's a human being just trying to do his job. And it's not like he's exactly been set up for success either with Arthur Smith at the wheel. But what can you say, man? They gave the keys of a Ferrari to a toddler. I've been saying that all season. All season. And it looks even worse now. Like, going into the year, the idea was, maybe Desmond Ridder can be Ryan Tannehill. And he can be a guy that can run this offense well, and he's not going to make mistakes, and he's athletic enough that, maybe we can get something going. We have this great running game we can turn to. We can hit deep shots down the field with play action. Desmond Ridder's going to play good, clean, honest football. And the Falcons, we're going to be able to contend for the playoffs, maybe win a very weak division with Desmond Ridder while paying him cheap money. No, we don't want Lamar Jackson. Never. In fact, we're going to release a statement against getting him. Well, unfortunately, Desmond Ridder has been one of, if not the most turnover-prone quarterback in the league this season, and that has been a problem. He's now benched, and to be honest, Heineke has objectively been better than him this year. In pretty much every game that Heineke has played, he has looked better. Ridder can't distribute the ball very well to these great weapons that they have. He is pretty athletic, which is fair to say. He can move some. I like when he runs. I like when the Falcons get him out on the run. But the fumbles and the interceptions and the should-be interceptions, like where he's just hitting defenders in the chest and they're dropping it. I mean, for as many picks as he had, he should have more. And so that's a problem. When your low-ceiling guy that's supposed to play clean football is not playing clean football, that's a problem. And yeah, it's been bad. Christine says, that man has let me down one too many times. I think every Falcons fan would agree with that sentiment. He got benched. It's the right call. I feel for him, right? He seems like a good enough guy. He was great in college. I just don't think he's a starter in this league. I really don't. I think he could stick around as a backup for a while. He seems like a really smart quarterback. He'll be a good presence in any QB room, but I just don't think he belongs as a starter. I really don't. It's a shame. It is, but I don't know. It's kind of true. Then we have Baker Mayfield, who, when I did this quiz last time, I said, man, I love Baker. I've defended him a lot. But last year was inexcusable. He looked so bad on the Panthers, and he had like one or two random good games on the Rams, but it's the Rams, so maybe it was just Sean McVay magic, and also like it was against the Raiders, so does it even really count? We're looking at maybe the comeback player of the year here, folks. Baker Mayfield has been awesome this year, like unironically good. Not just like, oh, Baker's being a dog and letting it rip, and he's good enough to like that Tampa Bay is sneaky. Like, the Bucs are probably going to make the playoffs with Baker Mayfield, and it has been because of him, not in spite of him. He has been pushing the ball down the field. His connection with Mike Evans has been fantastic. Mike Evans is having like one of, if not the best season of his career. And it just seems like the perfect environment for him where he can just kind of relax and do his thing. The locker room seems to have really rallied behind him. He's still got that cockiness and that swagger, but he seems like a little bit more humble, I guess. I mean, I don't know him, obviously, right? Like, I don't know him as a person, but just the way he carries himself, he seems to have matured a little bit, and he is rounded into a decent to good-looking NFL quarterback that has turned in some monster performances recently. I think I might have said this on here before, and you guys might have seen this, but he was the first quarterback in history to go into Lambeau Field, first visiting quarterback to go into Lambeau Field and post a perfect passer rating. He's been playing great football right now. We'll see how high he ends up on here, but I'm for sure taking him over Desmond Ridder. All right, Sam Howell, Andy Dalton. Yeesh. Sam Howell just got, speaking of quarterbacks that just got benched, Sam Howell did, and probably rightfully so. He's the perfect case of how counting stats and passing yards aren't always the greatest metric of whether a player is good or not, right? The Commanders just throw the ball 80 times a game, and he would just let it rip down the field, and he'd turn the ball over, but he'd occasionally hit a big play. Not very consistent from him, and he also is getting sacked at an insane rate, which if you go watch Sam Howell, a lot of it is on him and not the offensive line. It's not like they've got a great offensive line over in Washington, but man, he just holds on to the ball a long time. He's like a much worse Baker Mayfield, and I think that's a pretty easy comparison to make. A lot of people have said that, but yeah. I don't know that he's going to be starting next year, to be honest. He had a fun little run. There's a fun little stretch for a while where it's like, oh, Sam Howell's kind of fun, but the other shoe is dropped. Defenses have kind of caught up, and it's just the way he plays is not very sustainable unless he evolves his game. He's young. Maybe he can add something in the future, but not super duper high on Sam Howell. I think Jacoby Brissett for sure is the better quarterback, and it only took him 16 weeks to figure that out. Andy Dalton, meanwhile, I think he played in only one game this year, and he actually looked solid in that game. It was against the Seahawks, if I'm not mistaken, right? He's on the Panthers now, which is crazy to think about. He also turned in a pretty good year last year for the Saints. He was quietly, pretty good. He was efficient. He wasn't eye-popping, but he kept him in a lot of games. He was in and out of the lineup some, but he's a good, honest quarterback. He's definitely got a much higher floor than Sam Howell. Who do I think is better? That's tough because I think Sam Howell still does have a slightly higher ceiling. He can just do a little bit more. He can run around a little bit more. He's probably got a little bit more juice in his arm. But if I was going to play one game for my life, who would I rather have, Sam Howell or Andy Dalton? I would probably roll with Dalton, to be honest. I just would trust him to run the offense and play a good, clean, honest game more. I don't know. Sam Howell got a year to marinate, and not much has happened. Maybe he's just not a starter, and that's okay. That's now two quarterbacks from that 2022 class I've said that about, but I'm going to go Dalton. Here we go. Oh, finally, I can share a Brock Purdy take, too, because that's another quarterback I need to say my piece on a little bit. You got Brock Purdy and Geno Smith. I'm going to take a drink of water, and then we're going to dive into Brock Purdy. What a fun time to talk about Brock Purdy. Man. But hope you guys are having fun enjoying this. I know I'm just kind of like talking a lot uninterrupted right now. If you guys got any opinions or anything, feel free to chime in. If you're just here along for the ride, maybe you've got me on in the background, that's all good too. But appreciate you guys joining me here on this Wednesday night as we're doing the QB ranking quiz. And you know what? I'll probably post the final results on Twitter too. See how the Twitter sphere reacts to that. But Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, one of the coolest stories that I've seen recently in the NFL. Been playing some good football this year. And another guy where a lot of the counting numbers looking pretty darn good, if I say so. Right? I don't know why I haven't done this earlier. We can pull up some stats here. But he is up near the top in most things. And most advanced metrics too, right? Second in passing yards. Second in passing touchdowns. First in QBR. And tied for first with passer rating. Really, he's first because Mason Rudolph with 30 attempts is also up there. So that really shouldn't count. Yeah, he's been up there in like pretty much everything. And the 49ers offense is chugging along at a high level, save for Monday night, right? They're in contention for the number 1 seed. They look like maybe the best team in football. Maybe. And there's a lot of people that had him in MVP talks. There was a point where he was number 1 in odds for MVP. Just not that long ago. Like I think even last week, right? By all accounts, Brock Purdy should be this elite, great, electrifying quarterback, right? Well, kind of. Because similar to Justin Herbert, he's like the inverse. He's like the inverse of Justin Herbert, where, again, you have this crowd of people who just, they swear he's so good, and they're so dug in on him being this elite quarterback. And then you have a crowd of people who say, no, he's not that good. But ironically, the overlap is different. Like the people that think Justin Herbert is elite are the same people who think Brock Purdy is not that great. Or maybe, I don't want to say not that great. That's not fair to say, but like not elite. And then the people who think Justin Herbert is not elite think that Brock Purdy is elite. And it's just, again, like so many people with their heels dug in so deep. And we know how social media is a breeding ground for discourse. So where do I stand on Brock Purdy? Well, kind of in the middle. But I tend to side a little bit closer to he's all right. He's not elite. I will say he's not elite. I don't think he's an MVP. I don't think he's the most valuable player in the league. And I think we might have seen some of his limitations on full display on Monday. Mile Marker says, it's my birthday. Busy day. Nice to hear your football views as the evening closes. Well, happy birthday, Mile Marker. Thank you for spending your birthday evening with us here. Why don't we get a happy birthday in chat for Mile Marker? Happy birthday, man. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're having a good day. But Brock Purdy, you know, here's the thing, right? He has it easier than probably any quarterback in the league. Fair or not to say, that is kind of the reality. He's got this insane group of skill players, right? Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, Juszczyk, got Kyle Shanahan calling plays for him, scheming up an offense that typically makes, you know, playing quarterback very, very easy, right? That's just the truth. Now, he, to be fair to Purdy, has operated it on a higher level than probably any of the other guys the 49ers have trotted out there, right? They've had Nick Mullins, which, ruh-roh, oof, right? They've had Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, and now Brock Purdy. Purdy has far and away operated the scheme better than any of those guys, right? You can try and tell me that Jimmy G did. I don't buy it. 2019 NFC Championship game, Kyle Shanahan said, Jimmy G, you are going to do nothing. You are going to throw 8 passes, and we are going to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. They would not do that with Brock Purdy. They would not have him throw 8 passes in a game. And also, it's worth noting, right, he did get injured last year in the NFC Championship game. They lose him. That game completely turns on its head. This year, when the Niners and Eagles play, the Niners wallop him. So there is, like, I don't know. I feel like there's enough evidence that, like, Purdy is better than the rest of these guys. And one thing that I think we really discounted going into the year is that, He was Mr. Irrelevant. He's a rookie last year. There was room for him to maybe grow and get better, and I think we've seen that this year. We've seen him play make and throw on the run, move out of the pocket, scramble a little bit more than like Jimmy G, for example, or Nick Mullins or Trey Lance. I mean, Trey Lance could run more, obviously, but we also barely saw Trey Lance. But, right? He does not have a big arm. He does not. He can kind of get the ball down the field, but again, arm strength has more to do with just throwing the ball 70 yards in the air. It's can you put the ball on a rope on an outbreaking route to the opposite sideline, because if you don't, it's getting intercepted, you know. So he doesn't have insane arm talent, and again, everything is pretty easy for him, and even with everything being as easy as it is, sometimes he is late with his throws. Sometimes he's a hair late, and he doesn't read things as quickly. He's not like a super processor. He's a smart enough quarterback, but I don't think he's like a genius by any means. I say Brock Purdy is probably about a league average quarterback. Now, the one thing that does kind of bug me with this Brock Purdy discourse, and I get like trying to be objective and fair and accurate and truly analyzing the game through more than just stats you see in the box score, but watching film and stuff, right? And I totally get, like, it is fair to say Brock Purdy's not MVP. But there is this contingent of people that just hate Brock Purdy so much. And it almost seems like they're rooting for him to fail. And I guess that just bugs me because let's just put aside these takes for a second, right? Like, where do I rank Brock Purdy and stuff like that? Here we have one of the coolest stories in NFL history, really, at least from when I've started watching football, right? Mr. Irrelevant, by sheer random chance, getting his chance to start on a Super Bowl contending team. And he's playing really well. And it's just, you know, the vibes are great. And you have this group of people, it's like, he's not good. You guys know he's not good, right? He's not good. Oh, thank goodness he had a bad game. Oh, I'm right. Thank goodness. I was getting worried for a sec. So, I stand with Brock Purdy. But I totally understand the whole idea that, like, he's not the MVP. How does he stack up against Geno Smith, though? Right? Geno Smith was the Cinderella of last year. He didn't write back, though, you know, just this insane season with the Seahawks where he took them to the playoffs, put up some great numbers, and made some outrageous throws. Like, truly, like, if you go look at a Geno Smith highlight reel from last year, just unbelievable. I mean, he was awesome. And he's been pretty good this year. He's been in and out of the lineup with injuries. He's had some good games. He's had some not so good games. I think it's unfair to say maybe he's regressed, but he has taken maybe a slight step back. I still think he's a pretty good starter, right? And the contract that the Seahawks gave him kind of reflects that. It's that, you know, we gave you a 3-year deal. We can get out of it after a year if we want to, but we might not want to. He might stick around for another year. They've got the weapons, right? They're on the verge of making the playoffs again. This one is honestly tough. I said Geno last time. I still might go Geno, but it is close. I don't know. I mean, if I had to like rank Purdy personally, I'd probably put him at like 18 or 19 maybe. And Geno would be closer to like 15, 14. I'm going to go Geno, but it's tough. Taylor Heineke and Trey... Why is Trey Lance on my screen? And I say this as someone that likes Trey Lance. Man, that guy is never going to see the field. I've just accepted it at this point. Mix of bad luck and just not performing well when he got his shot. Why is Trey Lance on my screen? Taylor Heineke or Trey Lance? Heineke is the same old Heineke. Not much has changed. We haven't really learned anything new. He's going to go out there. He's not afraid to let the ball fly. He plays with maybe a little bit more confidence than he should, but also I kind of respect that, right? This is the same exact Heineke from that 2020 playoff game against the Bucs. Sometimes he just turns in those crazy games, and sometimes he turns in not so crazy games. I actually got to watch Taylor Heineke play live for the Vikings-Falcons game back on November 5th, the famous Joshua Dobbs game, the rise of the Pastronaut. And Heineke was solid. He made a few nice throws. He did have an interception in there, but I thought he was all right, and I think he's clearly been better than Desmond Ridder. He is a good journeyman backup, strong Ryan Fitzpatrick energy from Taylor Heineke. And then you have Trey Lance. I stand with Trey Lance. He was never given a fair shot. No. You know, getting to play quarterback for the 49ers is about as good of a chance as you can get. And I think it's funny that we go from Purdy to Lance because Purdy got his shot and immediately stepped in and played at a high level, whereas Trey Lance didn't. And there is levels to it, you know. I will always like Trey Lance. He's a great guy, right? Horns up, go Bison. Pretty incredible to be this kid from small town Marshall, Minnesota, go to NDSU, be the 3rd overall pick. It just didn't work out. Injuries, and again, when he did get his few games to play, it just didn't work out. And I think he's a good example of maybe why you should just play your project quarterbacks right away, right? Like with Anthony Richardson this year, who we'll probably get to a little bit. Just let them play. Who cares if they stink right away? Josh Allen stunk. He figured it out. If they're good enough, they'll figure it out. Just let them play. The 49ers were maybe a unique situation because they were in a Super Bowl window when they took him and they wanted to like transition from Jimmy to him. And it's pretty incredible that the 49ers could whiff as hard as they could on Trey Lance and still be in the spot they're in. But I will always love Trey Lance. I still think there's maybe a little bit of juice to him. Not a lot, obviously, but like I think there's another world where maybe things go differently for him. And I'm not saying he would turn into Mahomes, but like I think there's another universe where he doesn't get hurt and maybe he's a starter. Maybe he's doing what Purdy's doing instead. But we're just not in that universe. I gotta go Heineke. Come on. Okay, here we go. Patrick Mahomes and Bryce Young. I'm actually excited to talk about Mahomes, though. Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the league. I'll just address that right now, right? I'm going to pick him over everyone. He is. And for as many struggles as the Chiefs offense has had, and, you know, some of that has kind of been on him. Some of it, just a little bit. He's been quote unquote worse this year than he was last year, in my opinion. That's not saying much because last year's bar was just so incredibly high, and I'm going to talk about that in my next video. My next video really revolves around Patrick Mahomes, honestly, and how he might have unintentionally flown too close to the sun, but also I completely missed Mile Marker's comment here saying Miigwech, thank you, and Odaway Miigwech, everyone. Ah, nice. I like it. Odaway. I'm not gonna lie. I'm going to try and figure out what that is. I actually am not familiar. Huh. Anyways, I'm curious. So is that like this is sound bad. I genuinely don't know. Is that like Odawa? Okay, I completely misread it. That is why. Oh, snap. Okay. Ottawa. There we go. All right. Sorry, it's just a typo. Nice. I like it. Anyways, back to Patrick Mahomes. So, he has completely changed as a quarterback, really, over the past few years. He came into this league as a gunslinger, right? All the crazy throws, the deep balls, off platform, different arm angles, the no-look passes, just like Steph Curry on a football field. Truly revolutionary stuff. Past few years, the Chiefs have not been throwing the ball down the field at all. His average depth of target is amongst the lowest in the league. It's a lot of short stuff, and he's completely reinvented his game, more or less because he's had to, because teams are just so scared of the deep ball from him, right? Obviously, everything that makes Patrick Mahomes is still there. He didn't magically get slow. He didn't magically lose his arm talent. But what we're seeing is a culmination this season of defenses play the Chiefs differently and force them to beat them by a million paper cuts. And now the Chiefs just don't have nearly enough in the receiver room to do it. It's kind of crazy how they lose Juju Smith-Schuster, and that's all it really takes to sink this offense. The Chiefs' offense is not that great this year. It's not the greatest, to be honest. They've kind of struggled, and they'll still make the playoffs. But man, they lost to the Raiders, and it just wasn't the greatest. You know, not ideal. But that being said, everything that makes him special is still there. He's still up there for every stat too. I mean, and just look at the receivers he's working with. I mean, come on. Travis Kelsey is still good, but also what? Hold on, my monitor just died. I don't know if. Oh, okay, we're back. We're back. It scared me for a sec. You guys probably saw that on the stream there. The light went out. The light that was shining on my face from the monitor, but he's still fourth in yards. He's up there for touchdowns. He offers a lot of a threat as a runner, right? He's been scrambling more this year, which I found interesting. But there's not much else to say. I'll dive more into this in my video, which I'm very excited for, by the way. I've gotten a lot done recently on it. But Patrick Mahomes is still good. Then we have Bryce Young, who, poor guy, he just was set up to fail. And I didn't think it was going to be this bad, right? I definitely didn't pick the Panthers to win the South going into the year. But, man, no offensive line, no weapons. Play calling has been in disarray. He's doing what he can. And I've watched some Panthers games this year. I don't think he's as bad as some people think he is. I truly think he's doing what he can. And I don't know, granted it was against Joe Barry and the Packers defense on Sunday, but he turned in a pretty good game, and he's had a few solid showings now. And again, I think it's just going to come with time. Maybe they can get him a receiver in the offseason. We've got a decent looking free agent class coming up, because remember, the Panthers don't have their first round pick. But if they can get him a receiver and maybe get him some better coaching, right? I still think there's something here with Bryce Young. I don't think that he might turn into a superstar, but I think he can develop into a good, solid, honest starter. And maybe that's not what you want from the first overall pick, and it's tough when CJ Stroud gets taken right behind you, but I'm not ready to call Bryce Young a bust just yet. I still think there's something there. We're just going to have to be patient, wait and see, because there's just legitimately not much he can do right now. But it's Mahomes, pretty easily. I'm taking Mahomes. Oh boy, Mac Jones or Tua Tagovailoa. Mac Jones has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league this year. Everything that made him draftable, everything that made him appealing his rookie year is gone. He is no longer fundamentally sound. He's making silly mistakes. I mean, the Patriots just broke him with some questionable hires, right? They had Matt Patricia out there last year, and that didn't go very well. And now this year, the offense isn't going well. And he and Bailey Zappi are both trading places under center, and they have no weapons, and just it's bad vibes all around in New England. But Mac Jones deserves a lot of blame for it. He's been playing pretty bad, and he has a candidate for the worst interception of the year in that Germany game against the Colts. I mean, goodness gracious. He has, I think it was Mike Gesicki, streaking towards the end zone, wide open on an outbreaking route. I mean, should have been an easy touchdown. All he has to do is just set his feet and put it over the defender. And for no reason, he decides to just not set his lower body whatsoever and just try and throw a fadeaway jumper. Gets grossly underthrown, and it's an easy interception. It is truly just one of the worst interceptions I've seen at the NFL level. And he's been making mistakes like that. And again, he was a guy that was drafted because he was good, polished, NFL-ready quarterback who can come in and has a Kirk Cousins ceiling. But it just hasn't been there, and he's progressively gotten worse. You can blame the coaching staff, you can blame the receivers. That certainly hasn't helped, but man, his career has unraveled. I wonder what he's going to be up to at this time next year, because I don't know that he's going to be on the Patriots, to be honest. I could totally see him being like a random Raiders quarterback or something. I mean, come on. Tua's obviously better, right? We're going to go Tua here. I like Tua as much as the next guy. I was really excited about Tua after week 1 because he is another divisive quarterback where he plays in a very friendly offense. He's got a lot of help, a lot of weapons around him. And, you know, when he's on, he's on. And the offense puts up video game numbers and they're scoring 70, or Tua's throwing for 400 yards, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are going bananas. But there are a few games every year where, like, you just kind of take him off his spot a little bit. You disrupt the flow of the offense. And I can't remember who said this, so I can't attribute it. But someone that I saw on Twitter, they wrote a column on the Dolphins offense, and they said, it's great. It's this great supercomputer, But if you get a grain of sand in it, then that kind of throws everything off. And that is probably the big knock on Tua. If you take away his first read, if maybe you flush him out of the pocket, if you force him to color outside the lines, force him to do something outside of the offense, that's when things start to go downhill a little bit. And, you know, he does a lot of things really well, amongst the best in the league, right? Accuracy, throwing with anticipation, and just being a really smart quarterback. Those three attributes, if you had like a pie chart, they're like going outside the circle, honestly. I mean, the touch he puts on some of his passes, how he knows like when Tyreek Hill is going to be in a certain spot as soon as he releases the ball, it's incredible. He's very mechanically sound. You know, he's just got a pretty throwing motion, pretty release. He does all of the boring stuff really, really, really well. The big knocks on him are, once again, arm strength. Yes, he can hit those deep balls to Tyreek if he puts touch on it. What I'm more concerned about is, can he hit a 7-yard out to the opposite hash on 3rd and 7? Not always, unless, like, can he hit those tight windows, right? Where there's just like that tiny bit of separation and you have to just put it through like a clothes hanger, right? Can't consistently do that. Now, to be fair, in the Dolphins offense, you don't need to consistently do that. But sometimes you just have those games where the defense has a good game plan or they've just got really good guys on their side too. And he hasn't consistently been able to make it happen. We've seen flashes of him do it, actually. I got on this train of thought and then got derailed. But week 1 against the Chargers, I got super excited because I started to see him make those plays. He looked like Aaron Rodgers out there, man. He's throwing on the run. The first read isn't open. He's looking downfield. I mean, just the culmination of it was that throw to Tyreek Hill. 3rd down and long, right? Trying to put together a go-ahead drive late in the 4th quarter. The pressure's coming. The pocket collapses on Tua. Normally, you'd expect that maybe Tua throws it away or goes down, but somehow he escapes, doesn't even set his feet, right? This is what I'm talking about, Aaron Rodgers-esque. Doesn't set his feet off platform, just a flick of the wrist and an absolute dot to Tyreek Hill to convert the 3rd down. A few plays later, drops it in the bucket in the end zone for the go-ahead score, and I saw that, and I was watching that game with Oscar, good friend of mine, friend of the channel, and I turned to him, I was like, dude, who is this? Like, where has this been? This is a different Tua. And I remember like thinking after that game, like, oh man, if we get this all year, maybe he is MVP. But we haven't. There have been games where he hasn't looked as great. That Monday night game against the Titans where the Dolphins kind of fell apart and they didn't have Tyreek Hill, right? So again, I see a high ceiling with him, but he does not play there consistently. And I like a lot of the things he does. But in order to break out from like being in that like that 10 to 11 range to like 5 to 4, like a lot of his raw stats would indicate, if you just take a look here, right? He leads the league in passing yards. In order to truly, I think, break into that top tier, he just needs to have more like that consistently. And yeah, as Alex kind of alludes to, another concern, his size. He says Tua is going to be forced to retire in the next 2 years. I mean, shoot, like we're honestly very fortunate that he's been healthy this year. The concussion scares were terrifying last year. He's been injury prone really throughout his career. He's also had to deal with the hip problem from college, right? He's put on some weight, which is good to see, honestly. Some people poked fun on him for that. And it's like, dude, he has to. Like, he's small. He needs to put on weight. But there is always that injury concern too. So again, I like Tua. He's clearly better than Mac Jones, but there are enough questions around him that prevent him from being elite. But the few things he's good at, he's really good at. Anthony Richardson and Jordan Love. Oh, all right. We only saw a little bit of Anthony Richardson this season, and it's honestly a shame because he was so much fun when he did play. He was the ultimate boom or bust prospect out of Florida, right? Did not play well in college. Did not have the greatest tape, greatest production. But the upside, just unbelievable. Highest RAS in NFL history for a quarterback, which, if you guys aren't familiar, relative athletic score. It just takes percentiles of combine testing relative to their position, and then it's a score out of 10. So the 100th percentile, you get a 10, and then there's 9.9, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. His RAS is a 10. At least on the metrics of combine testing, he is the most athletic quarterback ever. I mean, he's 6'5". He's absolutely massive. He runs an insane 40, right? He's strong. He's got a cannon of an arm. If you had to create a quarterback in Madden, this is what you would make right here. And, we saw some of the ups and downs in the games he played with the Colts, right? We saw some wow throws. We saw some awesome runs. We saw a few throws get away from him. We saw him take some sacks that he shouldn't have. And we saw some turnovers that maybe you wouldn't like to see. But overall, I would say so far it has been a success. And if you give him a good coach like Shane Steichen, it can be pretty exciting. The thing I'm kind of worried about with him too is injury. I mean, he was injured a lot the first few weeks, and then eventually he just got knocked out for the season. That is the downside of a play style like his, because again, he's got size and he's not afraid to use it when he runs, which is a lot of fun to watch, but that's how you end up in the trainer's room a lot. But I like what I've seen from Anthony Richardson. I think that his rushing ability gives him a high enough floor, and again, you give him a good coach like Shane Steichen, maybe you can develop him a little bit. He could turn into something really exciting, I think, in the future. For right now, I'm not going to say he's this great quarterback, but I don't think that's the expectation. But again, we're just judging based off right now, not where I think he's going to be in 3 years. Jordan Love was such a big mystery coming into the year, right? We'd only seen him for 2 games. There was the famous I'm immunized Aaron Rodgers game against the Chiefs where his family was put up in the nosebleeds. And then there was the game against the Eagles last year. I believe it was Thursday night. It was Thursday night or Sunday night. But he came in for relief for Aaron Rodgers after he kind of got knocked out. And he looked pretty darn good. And it was a very rocky start for Jordan Love. Very up and down. First game against the Bears, he turned in a great performance. 3 touchdowns, big blowout win for the Packers. And everyone's thinking, oh my gosh, they've done it again, right? Insert Jesse Pinkman quote like, he can't keep getting away with it. Like, oh, the Packers have done it again. They found another great quarterback. And then he hit a really rough patch where he played some bad football. The Packers were losing. It did not look that great. And then he really turned it around again. It's been a roller coaster. Put together like a really strong month of play. And he's up there for a lot of these stats. Kind of. Not like passing yards, but some of the other stuff, I guess. I don't know. I'm too lazy to go through that right now. But we've seen him kind of grow more comfortable in this Matt LaFleur offense. And he's doing a lot of smart quarterback things where he goes through his reads. He identifies the open guys. He throws with anticipation. And he does have a little bit of sauce with his arm. He does. He's got some talent, right? There's a reason he was drafted in the first round is because he was a talented guy, kind of considered a project QB, but, he sat for however many years. Was it 3 or 4 years? And we're finally seeing him play. It took him a while to get his sea legs, but he's looking like a solid quarterback. I'm curious to see how he fares second go around against the Vikings because he did not play well in that first game back in Lambeau Field. But I truly believe he's a different quarterback, and this Packers offense is different this time around. I think we're going to be in for a good game on Sunday night. I like Richardson's ceiling a little bit more. This is similar to how I answered this a few months ago. I think if you had to ask me who I would want in the long run, I would say Richardson. But for right now, I'm going to say Jordan Love. Jordan Love is playing some great football. All right, here we go. Matthew Stafford and Kyler Murray. Let's talk about Matthew Stafford after I take a swig of water. I'm excited for this. As you guys know, I'm practically a Rams fan at this point, but Matthew Stafford. I've got a fun Matthew Stafford. Well, this is more of a Rams stat, but can I find it? Let's go on Twitter here. If I look up Matthew Stafford, maybe I can find it. I should have saved this tweet. It's got to be here. Here we go. Yes, we're going to use an aggregator account. I don't care. This is actually from Nate Tice's pod, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So shout out Nate Tice. He's the actual source of this stat, not ML Football. We do not stand with the aggregator accounts. But when Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Kyren Williams are all on the field, the Rams are first in EPA, first in EPA per dropback, first in EPA per rush, first in dropback success rate, first in success rate, first in rushing success rate, first in points per drive, and first in yards per play. This, folks, is truly one of the best offenses in the league right now. And Matthew Stafford being back to full health is a big reason why. This is honestly not to be that guy and pat myself on the back. But if you go back and watch my stream from this the last time I did this, this was honestly one of my best takes. I said, give me 4 games of Matthew Stafford this season, and then I can make a better read on where he is. Because last year it was not pretty. He dealt with a lot of injuries. He was in and out of the lineup. He did not look that great even when he did play. And then he got injured for the rest of the year. And he was dealing with this lingering elbow issue. And it was just super scary, honestly. I was a little worried that Matthew Stafford's career was over. That elbow injury was going to sap all the talent out of his arm. And that, as he continues to get older, that he was not going to be the same, right? He was coming off a fantastic 2021, finally got the monkey off his back and won the Super Bowl, played some excellent football in this Rams offense, helped turn Cooper Kupp into a superstar. Him and Sean McVay were just so much fun to watch. 2022 was a nightmare, but I said, you know what? Let me see if he's really done for or not. And you know what, folks? He's not. He's back and better than ever. Matthew Stafford has been on an absolute tear recently. I mean, my goodness. We watched this Rams game on this channel last week, right? Just look at what he's been doing recently. I mean, he's been carving people up, and it's not even just, it's not even just the counting stats, right? As they've gone on this nice little run here, the Rams have set themselves up nicely to make the playoffs. Again, it's just some of the most bananas throws that you will see in your life, where he's just absolutely piping the ball down the seam. He's hitting all the tough throws. He can still manipulate the pocket with the best of them, right? He's just such a cool quarterback. I honestly think Matthew Stafford is one of my favorite players. I've always liked him, even when he was on the lines. He's just so much fun to watch when he's locked in, and he's mentally as sharp as ever, right? No one, absolutely no one wants to play the Rams in the playoffs. I guarantee you. And there are truly few quarterbacks playing better than Matthew Stafford right now. I'm probably going to have him very, very high up on here. Probably because he got injured and the Rams are a little inconsistent, he won't get MVP. Man, if he stayed healthy, he would have been a decent candidate at least. I don't know that I would vote Stafford for MVP, but if I had a ballot, he might be 4 or 5 on it, honestly. He's been so good, man. Seriously, if you had not had the chance to watch Matthew Stafford and the Rams yet this year, go do it. They are must-see TV right now. In an era where the past few years, pushing the ball down the field has been substantially harder, they're not afraid to let it rip. They're hitting the big plays. Oh, I just can't say enough nice things. I don't know if I'm annoying or not with my constant Rams praise, but I don't care. This is my channel. I like the Rams. Kyler Murray has been, he's been pretty good. He has kind of had a lost year, right? It's been over a year at this point since he tore his ACL. He came back late in the year this year, led the Cardinals to a win over the poor Falcons in his first game back, and he flashed a lot of the stuff that makes Kyler, right? He showed a lot of the great athleticism. He made some good throws. He led a nice game-winning drive. He's been solid. I don't think that this is full 100% Kyler Murray by any means, though. And it's tough because I don't know that we've seen that for a few years, and at what point do you take that at face value? Because Kyler Murray's upside is outrageous. It is. It's like that 8-game stretch back-to-back years where he looked like MVP wasn't nothing. And I get he wasn't able to put it together for the full season, whether it be injuries or Cliff Kingsbury or injuries to other guys, just whatever, right? A myriad of reasons. It's clear, it's so obvious that Kyler Murray is a good quarterback, but again, he's one of those guys that you just he's just not quite there, And it's tough to evaluate him this year because the Cardinals are just not that good and he's been injured. But I am fairly high on Kyler, I would say, right? He's almost underrated as a passer, which feels weird to say because he was the first overall pick and everyone knows Kyler, but I don't know. He too is another his mechanics are just so pretty. Like, just the way he throws the ball is so pleasing to watch, man. There's no wasted movement in his throwing motion. So, I would like to see a locked in, fully healthy Kyler return to the field. I would like to see Kyler back at his best. I just don't think he's there right now. I'm taking Stafford easily. We're making some progress. I've been streaming for 79 minutes now, but you know what? We're having a lot of fun doing this. And once I say my piece on every quarterback, then it'll start to pick up here. But we've got a lot of quarterbacks to talk about. Justin Fields. All right, Justin Fields. So, this was kind of do or die for Justin Fields this year, right? You know, the Bears have always been in contention to get the top pick, whether they be bad or the Panthers be bad. The Panthers have kind of done them a huge solid by being bad. And the whole year it's been like Justin Fields is playing for his job. And he got off to a bad start, turned in some bad games. The Bears were losing. It's like, oh, it's so over. He's done for. Nope, not a chance Justin Fields makes it. Then he gets hurt. And then Fields comes back. And he's been playing a little bit better. But it's so tough to decipher. Because how much better has Fields been this year than like last year? There just hasn't been a ton of substantial improvement. And it's the same thing with him again. Electric runner. Unbelievable runner. Right? So tough to bring down in the open field. Top line speed, acceleration, just, you know, whether it's scrambles or designed runs. He is just such a handful. And underrated power as a runner too. I mean, when he gets a full head of steam, he's tough to wrap up and fully bring down. Extremely exciting player. Can make some nice throws. Uses his legs to sometimes create. You know, he can run around a little bit, buy a little bit extra time, and take a shot down the field. However, just some of the more boring stuff has not been fully grasped yet. He still holds on to the ball way too long. Gets sacked and hit too much when he shouldn't be. On plays that he shouldn't be getting sacked or hit, right? Still turns the ball over. Fumbles have been a problem for him. Interceptions can be a problem for him. And I truly go back and forth so much on how good I think he is. And it's frustrating. I can imagine it's really frustrating for the Bears because they're trying to make up their mind. Like, we're going to have the first overall pick. Should we take a quarterback or not? I'm starting to think they will. I'm starting to think they will take Caleb. They'll test the market for Fields, see if they can trade him to like the Falcons or something, which I would like to see for football science purposes. I would love to see Justin Fields in an offense like that. Maybe get him a different coach too, but because that would be the best situation he's been in. But they got DJ Moore for him, and there hasn't been the full leap yet that you'd hoped he would take at this point. He's exciting. He's talented. He's not bad. He's definitely not bad, but I don't think that the Bears are going to give him another contract. But I do think he'll get another shot somewhere else. And I don't know. I would like that team to be the Falcons, personally. I think that makes most sense for both sides. Jared Goff. The crusher of dreams. Jared Goff, the bringer of nightmares for me. He's still doing his thing, man. I think it's pretty clear at this point what Jared Goff is and that he's an elite system quarterback. And while that might sound like a backhanded compliment, he's one of those guys that excels at a few things. And he's an extremely accurate quarterback. He's an extremely smart quarterback. And I've said this a few times now, but he's one of those guys that does the boring things really, really well. But man, if you move him off his spot just a little bit, if you get pressure on him, if you disrupt things, he's a little turnover prone. It's so weird because when he's locked in, when things go well, he's not turnover prone at all. He's so accurate, right? He overall is a smart quarterback. But if you just frazzle him some, and it's easier said than done with how good this Lions offensive line is and how good of a coach Ben Johnson is, right? It's much easier said than done. But we have seen a few games where, yeah, you just frazzle Jared Goff some. He'll turn the ball over maybe, or the Lions offense won't be humming at full strength. I think he's got a very high floor, a limited ceiling, but we've seen him do it now in multiple teams, multiple schemes with Sean McVay and Ben Johnson, right? He's one of those guys where if you do build a good environment for him, he will do well. And he's doing well again this year. He's played some great football the past few years with the Lions. So, as mile marker says, Jared baby, we're gonna take Jared baby. I think fairly comfortably. Jared Goff is a good, honest. That's even maybe discounting it. Jared Goff is a good quarterback in a good system, and you know what? That's okay. That's okay. So we got Caden in here. Welcome to the stream, Caden. Saying, "Oh yeah, baby." Good to have you in here. Take it you're off work now, and look at that. Last time we did this, you called this man right here hippie trash. We're about to talk about your former quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, and this one I don't even really know what to say because we saw him for 4 snaps this year. We didn't even see him throw a pass, I don't believe, right? It was 3 runs and then he got sacked or something like that. So I kind of have to go off what I said last time around in that, there's just no way he's as bad as he was last year. And he still had those moments every game where it's like, you know what? This is Aaron Rodgers, man. He can make some zany throws. Obviously older, not quite as agile or as athletic as he used to be, but the arm is still there, right? Still a great quarterback in my mind. It's just a shame that we didn't get to see him this year, man. It really is. This could have been a fun year for the Jets with Rodgers. I do think he would have turned in a pretty good season. Maybe not MVP, but he would have gotten them to the playoffs for sure. I'm excited to watch him next year. And there's a lot of takes over Aaron Rodgers and maybe how much attention he likes, and I totally get that. He's an interesting fellow, I'll say that. He has had one of the more interesting career arcs in the NFL, but I don't know. As a fan of football, I missed seeing him out there every Sunday, and I want to see him sling the rock a little bit more before he hangs it up, and then he either disappears into obscurity or he turns into like a podcast bro or something. I say that like I'm not live streaming on YouTube, but you know what I mean. Him and his good friend Joe Rogan. But Aaron Rodgers is a good quarterback. He is. Like, let's not get it twisted. People were saying that he was washed and done for. He had maybe his worst season as a starter last year, but I still think he's got something left in the tank. And I want to see it next year. Let's get one more rodeo from Aaron Rodgers. Kirk Cousins. Oh, here we go. You like that? That's my QB, baby. Kirk Cousins. Yeah, that's right. Kirk. So, very funny story. My first ever video on this channel was called Skull and Crossroads, the Kirk Cousins Quandary, and it came out shortly after the Vikings season ended last year. And essentially, it was like an 18-minute video on why the Vikings shouldn't extend Kirk Cousins. Right, and I pretty much argued that he was a good but not great quarterback with some glaring weaknesses that, as he turns 35 and 36, will probably not be fixed. The Vikings will probably not get much better with Kirk at quarterback, and he's going to cost a lot of money. Now, for better or worse, whether it be Stockholm Syndrome via Nick Mullins or the fact that Kirk was absolutely slinging it this season, I've kind of changed my mind on that. I wouldn't mind if Kirk Cousins came back. I'd like to see how much the contract is worth, obviously. I don't think it should be super long-term. Maybe a 1-2 year deal at most, but Kirk Cousins was turning in some great games, man. He was really just ripping the ball across the yard. And I want to clarify something, right? Because I feel like, especially in the Vikings fan base, there has been a bit of revisionist history with Kirk Cousins. Now, Kirk Cousins turned in some of the best performances of his career this season, right? That game against the Niners, that game against the Eagles, that game against the Packers, right? Just honestly some all-time Kirk Cousins games. But let's not act like he was playing that way the whole season. And he was playing pretty well. Like, he was playing good this season, don't get me wrong. But let's not act like those 3 games were his entire season. And let's not act like he would have consistently been that dominant every single game. And that's not even a knock on Kirk, right? Like, no quarterback pretty much plays that well over an entire season. So I think that it can be easy to say, man, if he was healthy, he would have won MVP this year. It's like, we don't know that, man. Like, he had some bad games too. The game against the Bears, the game against the Panthers, he was not that great. Like, He's a quarterback that gives you very high variance in that there will be a few games where it's like, oh my goodness, It's like Tom Brady out there. And then it's games like, dude, what are you doing? And I honestly think a lot of it has to do with his biggest weakness, and that he's just not an athlete at all. And again, similar to Jared Goff, you move him off his spot, that's when things start to go off. That's when he fumbles the ball. That's when, maybe he forces one when the clock is running out and he tries to rip it into tight coverage and it's just not there, or he doesn't see a guy, right? He can get flustered a little bit, and it's gotten better, to be honest. I honestly think KOC has probably helped him with that, because he just seems to play a lot looser than he did under Mike Zimmer. And the primetime narrative is starting to be put to bed, because he turned in some great games on primetime, But the objective truth is, yeah, there are some weaknesses to his game, and as he's going to be coming off an Achilles injury and now turning 36, I certainly don't think he's going to be more athletic. But he's a great quarterback. He's a great throw of the ball. He can execute the offense well. He's a good quarterback. Honestly, and it's crazy for me to say this, I think this is close to even. I'm going to give the slight edge to Rodgers, though, which I know is crazy. He hasn't played in a year. It's Aaron Rodgers, man. I could be wrong. We could do this again next year, and I could be like, man, I really had Aaron Rodgers over Kirk. It's Aaron Rodgers. I can't pick him over Kirk just yet. I can't. But Caden asking the important question, where does Romeo Doubs play into this all? Well, Dobbs is better than Jefferson. That's what some say. If they had a wide receiver quiz for this, I think we know who would be number one. That one would be real quick. Just Jefferson. He went to IR for a little bit. People forgot who the real wide receiver one was. Not anymore. Not after that game against the Lions. With Nick Mullins. Sorry, Pick Mullins out there. Goodness gracious. Russell Wilson and Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, so we just talked about Russell Wilson not that long ago. Yeah, he's getting benched, and it's not for football reasons. It's financial reasons, and Sean Payton kind of being a meanie. Russell Wilson has kind of been... I'm trying to think of a better way to put this. You know what? I'm just going to say it. Russell Wilson has been neutered a little bit with this Sean Payton offense, and that they are not letting Russ cook. That's the way I could have said it, I guess. I don't care. It's funny. They are not letting Russ cook whatsoever. And maybe that's a little fair considering he's 35 and a lot of his physical attributes have declined, right? In his prime, his game was based on backyard ball. And it was in the perfect era to do that. Big plays down the field were all in vogue, and he could really test the defense vertically. He could just run around by those extra seconds. He could scramble. You could do designed runs with him. Honestly, one of the most fun quarterbacks I've ever watched is prime Russell Wilson. Just a joy out there on the football field. But age and injury have caught up to him. He's 35. He's coming off of a few significant injuries that have dinged him up. And he's playing in a Sean Payton system that is pretty much the antithesis of what Russell Wilson wants to do. It's so much structure and just getting the ball out quick and just peppering the middle of the field with those short routes, right? Sean Payton wants a guy like Drew Brees. Russell Wilson is like the opposite of Drew Brees. The only similarity they have is their height. That's quite literally it. But I think he's been fine, right? He's not been nearly as bad as he was last year. Again, you can see signs of decline, but you saw a few little glimpses of old Russ, right? Like the little Ratatouille meme where the food critic bites into the food and he's taken back to being a kid. I had that moment watching the Broncos-Bills game where he had that nice touchdown to Courtland Sutton. There's still flashes of it, but it's not always there. And again, now that two high safeties are in vogue and every defense's goal is to take away the big plays and he just can't run around like he used to. He is a worse quarterback for it. Now, is he better than Jimmy? I've stood with Jimmy for so long. I think it's pretty clear at this point. This was just some Kyle Shanahan sorcery because it did not look good with the Raiders this year. And it's tough because I thought, he did well with Josh McDaniels before on the Patriots, but that was also like a 4-game sample size and the Patriots were good back then. Jimmy is not good. And Christine says there is a correct answer to this one. I think that you and I are going to disagree, unfortunately. I don't know. Jimmy, the it factor, right? He's the ultimate carrier of the it factor. If you know, you know. But it's Garoppolo over. I'm going Russ over Jimmy. Kenny Pickett and Joe Burrow. Oh, sorry, Jack. You're not going to like this. Kenny Pickett's career has kind of been in reverse in that last year, his rookie year, he showed flashes, and I thought, wow, Kenny Pickett's a little better than I thought he would be. And this year, it's like, wow, Kenny Pickett is as bad as I thought he was going to be. And it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. I guess I haven't watched enough Steelers games to fully know why, but I like the way that Steven Ruiz put it. I don't know if any of you guys follow Steven Ruiz on Twitter or read his quarterback rankings, but his like summary of Kenny Pickett is like a less talented Josh Allen, pretty much. And like the way he plays, he kind of is like a reckless gunslinger, and he tries to create a lot and just throw the ball around the yard. And he tries to play like Josh Allen, but he's not Josh Allen, pretty much, which is unfortunate. I like watching Kenny Pickett play because there's just a little bit of madness to him, but it just doesn't always work. Joe Burrow was playing fantastic before he got hurt. And he got hurt, and then he played hurt for a little bit, and it was ugly. The Bengals offense looked putrid, and it was like, uh-oh. And then eventually got healthy, and he was playing like an MVP. I honestly think if Joe Burrow didn't get hurt, he'd be in the MVP conversation right now. He was playing that well. I mean, he turned in a great performance against the 49ers, right? Like, oh, it's a shame he got hurt in that Ravens game, because I think the Bengals and Ravens would have been just such a fun race to the finish for the division. And Burrow, he's like the modern pocket passer now, where that his game is predicated on throwing from the pocket, but he is an underrated athlete, and he can move around the pocket and get out the pocket and throw on the run some. He is like a less athletic Patrick Mahomes, kind of. He's like if you dialed down Patrick Mahomes from like 100 to 80, whereas Kenny Pickett is if you dialed down Josh Allen from 100 to like 40. I really like the way Joe Burrow plays, and I think it's sustainable. I think this notion that he's a system QB because Jake Browning had like 2 good games is just laughable and ridiculous. The Bengals are clearly better with Burrow, and I just think it's remarkable how they got so good once he got healthy, and their offense has been up and down. But man, I mean, I don't know if you guys watched that Saturday game, but man, like, it's pretty obvious Burrow is a good top 5 quarterback. He's earned that. Davis Mills and Josh Allen. I mean, has Davis Mills even played this year? I don't think so. The Texans went and got Case Keenum instead of playing Davis Mills, which should tell you all you need to know about him. For where he was drafted, being drafted on a rebuilding Texans team in like the 3rd round, he's had a solid career. I mean, he's seen the field a decent amount, and he's not been like laughably bad. He's not like Nathan Peterman by any means, but he's not a starter. He's just not a starter. One impressive neck, though. The giraffe at quarterback. Then you have Josh Allen, who, a lot can be made of his turnovers. You live by Josh, you die by Josh, right? He is, I say gunslinger a lot. He is the ultimate gunslinger. You know what? He has got maybe the most talented arm in the NFL, and he's not afraid to show it. And sometimes it gets him into trouble. Sometimes he just makes those throws where it's like, dude, what did you see there? Like, did you really think you could make that throw? But then he'll make a throw. It's like, whoa, what did he see there? He really thought he could make that throw. Like, and he's such a good runner. I would argue he's like probably the 2nd or 3rd biggest rushing threat from the quarterback position in the NFL. I mean, seriously, he's probably not quite in the Lamar and Justin Fields tier, but honestly, he's pretty darn close. He's so fast, and he's 6'5", and he runs with power, and he can leap over guys. And ever since the Bills kind of let Ken Dorsey go and let Josh be Josh, he has been Josh, and he's got an outside shot to win MVP too, deservedly so. Yeah, he's had a few bad games where he's throwing picks, but at this point, you just kind of have to deal with it and know that he can be a one-man offense and carry you deep into the playoffs, which he's done time and time again. Him and Diggs' connection is still great. He can hit Gabe Davis for those big plays. I mean, he's as good as it gets, man. He really is. If I had to rank him, I would probably put him at number 2. I feel pretty good about that. You could make the case for him being first team All-Pro, MVP. Can't complain with what I've seen from Josh Allen this year. Come on. Easy. Easy. Henry's in here. Welcome to the stream, Henry. Saying, checking in from Little Rock, Arkansas. Nice. Well, good to have you in here. What brings you to Little Rock? Hope you're having a good holiday season. You were back in Georgia for a little bit, correct? Hopefully it was nice to be back there in the area for a little bit. See some family and friends. All right, Ryan Tannehill and Sam Ehlinger. Ehlinger is another one of those guys that just hasn't played this year. I honestly don't even know what there is to say about Ehlinger, so I'll just get out of the way now. He's not good. And you know what? You're right. Texas is back, but they weren't back when you were there. That's the salty dog in me talking. Sam Ehlinger seems fine, but not a starting quarterback. Why is he even on my screen, honestly? Ryan Tannehill. Well, he's not the starter anymore. He had a good run in Tennessee. He's had a good, solid, underrated career. He had a really fun revitalization story with the Titans, but it's kind of clear his time is up. When he did play this year, he was very up and down. He had some bad games. I think it was against the Saints. He had that 3-pick game that ended up costing him that game. I mean, yeah. I'm going to take Tannehill, but that's not saying much. He's not been that great. I wonder if Will Levis is on here or not. Well, we do have our first rookie, CJ Stroud. All right. So, CJ Stroud has kind of been nuts this year, to be honest. If he didn't get hurt, I would probably vote him Rookie of the Year. I think Puka might have stolen it from him just on the basis of Puka's played a full season, and also Puka's been generationally good, whereas, Stroud has been generationally good as a quarterback, but he's missed some games now. But man, he is already hit on his upside for me, which is crazy, and maybe he does get better. I'm not even saying this is as good as it gets for CJ Stroud, but honestly, if CJ Stroud had the season that he's having right now, if I had to predict when he would have it, I would say year 4 probably, when the Texans are better. Nah, man. Out of the box, he was ready to go, right? Every single strength of his in college that made him such a fascinating player has been on full display. His superpower, accuracy. Supremely accurate. Can make all the throws, pinpoint with the football, and it's reflected in his low interception number. And I say that, right? Sometimes you can look at an interception total and it's low, and it's wow. But they're really lucky. They have a lot of dropped picks, or maybe they're just not being asked to do a lot within the structure of the offense, like Russell Wilson, for example. Now, CJ Stroud, I believe he has the highest average depth of target in the NFL. He's throwing the ball down the field more than any other quarterback, and yet he has only 5 interceptions. He is both hitting big plays while not turning the ball over, and doing that as a rookie with a wide receiver core that's proven to be pretty good, but had a lot of questions coming in. Yes, his scheme has helped him some. The Texans run a very similar offense to the Shanahans and McVays of the world. Bobby Slowick came over from the 49ers, and for a fun fact for those that watch my video, Bobby Slowick was also on that 2012 Washington coaching staff, so he obviously has that going for him. But man, if you just have watched the Texans and CJ Stroud, he has been him. He has been that guy. And out of structure, what we saw in the Georgia game, right, which really kind of maybe raised his upside a little bit, seeing him play make, throw on the run, scramble, that has been there too. He has been at a high level both in and out of structure. One of the most enjoyable quarterbacks to watch in the league this year. He's been awesome. Honestly, maybe already top 10, which is crazy to say, but I don't know, man. He's just been that good. Henry saying, doing the long drive from Athens to Colorado. Well, good luck, man. Hope you drive safe. That's got to be one heck of a trek. That's probably even further than the long drive I take, Athens to Fargo. So hopefully that's going well for you. And you know what? You get to see a decent amount of the country too. So can't complain about that, but appreciate having me accompany you on your drive there. Best of luck, man. Good to see you in here. All right, let's go to CJ Stroud's divisional rival, the prince who was promised, my MVP pick, Trevor Lawrence. Oh, Trevor. Trevor, you tease. Trevor was so good down the stretch last season. Man, second half of last year, probably one of the five best quarterbacks in the league, and man, he had it all. The arm, just the smarts, getting that ball out quick, hitting all the throws, being able to create in and out of structure, winning some games, man, some outrageous comebacks, everything, the makings of an MVP. And you know what? I planted my flag for Trevor Lawrence to be the MVP. The Jaguars are in the good place. Oh, it's just been such an inconsistent season from him. And he's been turning the ball over, and now he's been hurt, so I don't want to put too much stock into how he's looked the past few weeks, right? Because it's easy to forget, before Trevor Lawrence got hurt, the previous 2 weeks, he was playing some of the best football of the season, probably his best football on the season. It finally looked like the Jags were starting to figure out how to make this offense work with Ridley, Zay Jones, and Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, right? They get humbled by the 49ers, and it's like, oh man, the Jaguars are a paper tiger. They're frauds. The other shoe is finally dropped. But these Titans and Texans games, Trevor Lawrence played exceptionally well, right? They finally started to put up some big numbers on offense, especially in that Texans game. This was a game I watched the full 60 minutes of. Great game, by the way. Trevor Lawrence kicked some butt in this game. And then he looked pretty good in the Bengals game, but then he gets hurt and he goes out. And he's been, battling injuries off and on, and the Jaguars offense just hasn't looked that great. Again, I'm not going to put too much stock into this poor play here. I know he's better than this, and I think injuries have a lot to do with it. But I gotta be fair, right? If I'm gonna say you can't judge Justin Herbert based on only his ceiling and not like who he act like, you can't take everything else at face value. I gotta be fair with Trevor Lawrence too. You know what? He hasn't taken that leap that I thought he would yet. He's shown flashes. He's shown even games where like, oh, it's starting to happen. But it hasn't happened yet. Maybe it will. I've seen some crazy Trevor Lawrence takes though, saying like, he should be considered a bust for being told that he's like the next Peyton Manning. Dude, he's having a good career. He's the first overall pick. He has turned the Jaguars franchise around. No, he is not a bust. He was the right pick at number 1 overall. He's obviously very good. I honestly go back and forth between these two. Part of me still wants to say Trevor because I don't know, man. It is tough. I think this is so tough because CJ Stroud has had the better season. But again, I honestly think if Trevor and Kirk didn't get hurt, we'd be having a very different conversation right now. This is not disrespect to CJ Stroud whatsoever. I'm picking Trevor by a hair. By a hair. Caden saying, I don't think there will be a Super Bowl tonight, referring to the Madden 20 League. No, I wanted it. Oh, I was looking forward to that after we were done here. I was going to tune in and watch. That's so sad, man. Has he not said anything? That's so tough. Henry says, going Stroud. I mean, again, dude, I can't even blame you. Like, I would say almost objectively, like, CJ Stroud has been better than Trevor this year. Fair or not, I'm factoring in last year as well, which I guess is very unfair to Stroud because he didn't play in the NFL last year. But I don't know, man. I honestly think a year from now, if we have this debate again, Stroud or Lawrence, like, I don't know. This is like my last stand. I'm not even saying Trevor Lawrence is like top 3 or anything. I honestly think that, like, I don't know, Trevor might be like 8 and Stroud is 9 or something like that. I don't blame you for going Stroud though, because he has just been like outrageous this year. He has. I don't blame you, but I hope that those two can have like a nice little back and forth divisional battle for these next few years here. The AFC South kind of needs some juice injected into it. And you know what? Maybe Anthony Richardson can join the fun too. All right, Jacoby Brissett, Daniel Jones. Brissett, great year last year with the Browns. And then, he kind of got ran out of town because they had other plans for another guy. But Brissett played really well. he's kind of been toiling away on the bench for Washington. Finally got the starting nod going into next week. And I made a snide comment earlier that like, oh, it only took him 16 weeks to play their better quarterback. But man, going and watching Brissett come in for Sam Howell past few weeks, he is. Brissett is pretty good. Like, Jacoby Brissett deserves some respect. I honestly think he could start on a few teams and just like, there are teams that at the trade deadline that completely fumbled this. I think of the Jets. They certainly could have used Jacoby Brissett, right? Honestly, the Vikings, right? The Pasternaut was fun, but man, we'd probably be in better shape with Jacoby Brissett right now. I mean, shoot, he's about to start for the Commanders, right? He could probably start on the Falcons. So, I think Jacoby Brissett is a good low-end starter. I do. He's another one of those very smart players, kind of a boring, I don't even want to say boring. He can do a little bit, but I don't know. He's a good, honest starter. There's a reason he's stuck around in the league for so long now, and I think it is kind of cool to see him play his best football over these past few years. He has gotten better. Like, he's a much better quarterback from those Patriots days. Daniel Jones, woof. I picked Brissett over Daniel Jones last time. I'm probably going to pick Brissett again because Daniel Jones does a few things well. He's a very underrated runner. I don't even think he's underrated at this point. Like, he just is a good runner. People know that. But, man, last year, you want to talk about a quarterback that was not asked to do a lot. Goodness gracious. Brian Daboll was like, Daniel Jones, we are not going to have you do anything. And I think that's what makes his contract so curious. Because how can you go a whole season with your coach, this quarterback developer that you brought in, and he pretty much designs an offense that asks Daniel Jones to do the bare minimum. And you do that for a full year, and they're like, you know what? Here's a big payday. I just don't get it. And, his offensive line has not done him any favors this year. His wide receivers haven't done him any favors. But, man, at this point, Daniel Jones is probably not a starting quarterback, which is tough to say about how high he was drafted, but it's true. Brissett is better. I'm not even trolling, man. I think Jacoby Brissett, he would start on the Giants. That's another team he'd start on. But Caden says there will be hope, but not much. Oh, well, we'll see. Maybe I can convince him or something. We'll see. All right, Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson. So I have kind of said this on a lot of my streams here. Deshaun Watson gets traded to the Browns, and there's, everything going on around him, and he's been out of football for a while, and then he finally comes in last year, back in like November, I think, and it does not look good, and I thought, there's just no way he can be this bad again, right? Well, he maybe hasn't been quite as bad this year, but honestly, it was not great. He was inaccurate. He just looked slower out there. He made curious decisions with the football. He was turnover prone. All the magic of Deshaun Watson is gone. And you can't really say, oh, like, he's getting used to playing football again, or like he's still adjusting at this point. Like, no, like, he's played about a full season at this point. Now, he got injured, like, and got knocked out of the lineup, like, was it 2 months ago at this point? But, like, he's played, like, maybe 10 or 11 games at this point, and he just has not gotten better. And I don't know how much longer you can wait and be like, oh, it's going to get better. I don't know, man. I'm not watching the same quarterback when I watch him out there. He's not that great. He really isn't. Lamar Jackson, on the other hand, he's putting together the best season of his career. There's been some interesting talk about Lamar Jackson and whether or not he's deserving of MVP or not, right? A lot of his counting stats aren't that great. Like, if you go sort by, like, for sure not passing yards, but even passing touchdowns, like, he's 14th. He has 19 passing touchdowns. And even, like, his rushing numbers aren't as elite as they've been in years past. And people are like, oh, he's, like, I don't know. Like, some people just think he hasn't had that great of a year, but just because the Ravens are the best team and he's the quarterback that he's going to get it. No, not at all. Lamar Jackson looks like a better player now than he did in his 2019 season. And obviously his 2019 stats are more eye-catching. 36-6 touchdown interception ratio, over 1,200 rushing yards. He's another guy who's completely changed his game, and he runs a little bit less. he's maybe not quite as explosive of a runner, but he still like displays that. I mean, shoot, that Monday night game against the 49ers, open field, he put Fred Warner on his back. And it's like, who does that? Like, no ball carrier does that to Fred Warner. But here's Lamar Jackson just like putting him on skates. But he's just grown so much as a passer, right? He's always had the arm talent, but he's just finally putting it all together now. And it's truly just great to see. The way that he uses his biggest weapon, right, his speed, he uses it as a passer now. He has Steph Curry-like gravity, where the defense has to respect him as a runner, whether it be you contain your edges or you have a spy that takes a guy out of coverage, right? Maybe you're running a little bit less too high safety because you need another guy in the box to worry about Lamar as a runner, right? That's just the advantage of him existing. But now he's using his legs. If you go watch Lamar play now, right, when he's in trouble, he uses his legs. His first instinct 110% is the pass. And maybe almost too much. Like, maybe he looks downfield a little bit too much now, but I don't even want to say that because it's not like a problem. He's not taking unnecessary sacks or anything. He'll get tripped over the referee for a safety. That was just an objectively funny play. But like, you know, that's an aberration, right? He keeps his eyes downfield. He's looking. And the defense still has to respect that he's going to take off and scramble, right? So if you've got Lamar in a scramble drill on the outside, he could just beat you to the corner and run down the sideline for a 10-yard gain. But he's going to spend an extra second looking for that 25-yard gain through the air. He's such a mature quarterback now. He's probably he might be top 3. I think he's going to end up very high on here. I am beyond high on Lamar Jackson. It's been beaten to death at this point, but I have to say it. He was available, and every team crossed their arms and said no. Every team passed on him on draft day, right? He was a 32nd overall pick, last pick of the first round. Every team passed on him, and 5 years later, they didn't learn their lesson. They did not learn their lesson. Lamar Jackson is elite, ladies and gentlemen. Give that man his second MVP. He's going to be joining historic company. Henry with a good question here. He says, do you think the Browns start next season with Watson? He's obviously looked rough, but it seems like they're locked into him because of the guaranteed money. Well, he's for sure going to be on the team. I mean, it makes no sense to get rid of him, right? If they get rid of him, that's actually going to make their financial situation worse. They're going to have to pay him all that guaranteed money right at once. Can't be doing that, right? They don't have a way out, as in like getting him off the roster. Now, will he start? I honestly don't know because it's crazy, right? Because the Browns quarterback right now, Joe Flacco, of all people, is kind of playing out of his mind. Joe Flacco is putting together an insane stretch, and we'll see if he sustains it. We'll see how far they go in the playoffs. If they win a playoff game with Joe Flacco, there are going to be a lot of uncomfortable conversations in Cleveland. That's what I'll say. I think that would be fascinating. I think there's a world where Deshaun Watson is not their starter come next season because it is just night and day how much better their offense is with Joe Flacco out there. So I'll leave it at that. I think that there is still a very real possibility that they do stick it out with him and they feel like they're obligated to because of how much they gave up to get him and how much they pay him. And if he's going to be on the team, he might as well start. Otherwise, that's a problem. But also, if you're a serious organization, you can't be starting guys based off of that. You need to start who the best player is. And to be honest, he's not the best quarterback on their roster right now. Like, he really isn't. All right. I don't know. That might have covered all the quarterbacks now, so we can get some quicker rapid fire answers. Not rapid fire, but right. I've said my piece on Derek Carr. I've said it on Jalen Hurts now. Derek Carr or Jalen Hurts? I mean, come on, right? Jalen Hurts isn't like he's a superstar in impact and recognition, and he is a good and great and fun player, but he's not like, an all-pro caliber quarterback. Come on, he's better than Derek Carr. Let's not be silly here. Here's a fun one, though, right? Last one's not as big of a debate. Jalen Hurts or Dak Prescott? The two top quarterbacks in the NFC East, probably two of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. Hurts or Prescott? Great Great debate, great rivalry. I'm going to go Dak, man. I really am. Dak just offers so much more as a passer. And I just think he's been a more successful quarterback in this league. And you know what? Dak Prescott, again, has found success with, 3 different play callers. The weapons haven't always been great. That's kind of a misconception. Like, yeah, he's had CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, but last year it was CeeDee Lamb and almost nothing else. And they bring in Brandon Cooks, and that's just helped their passing game take off and hit a new level. I think that their floors are pretty similar because you can get a stinker out of Dak. Like, you can. He's due for maybe 1 or 2 of those a year. We saw one against the Bills and we saw one against the Niners. That's kind of what prevents him from being like an MVP level quarterback. As a Dak Prescott supporter, I can admit that. But his ceiling is just so much higher than Jalen Hurts's. I don't know, man. Jalen Hurts is good, but he's not Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is better in almost every facet of the game except for power running, I would say. Henry saying, not sure if you've gone over it already, but what are your thoughts on the Russ situation? We touched on that at the top of the stream, but we'll run through it again here real quick just because it's such a fascinating situation, right? So from my understanding, Russell Wilson is being benched, not for performance reasons, but financial reasons. The Broncos were trying to get him to waive his injury guarantee, right? They're trying to save some money. Obviously, Russell Wilson, no matter what you think of him, that contract is not good. Sean Payton, not a fan of Russell Wilson, probably looking for any reason to get him out of there. And I kind of stand with Russ here a little bit, right? They're pretty much asking Russell Wilson to give them money back. And it's like, no, like they gave him that contract. And you know what? He's had a solid bounce back season. The old Russ is not back. No, right? He's not like an elite quarterback anymore. The Broncos have kind of had the training wheels on with him a little bit. He's shown flashes of the old Russ. But these last few games, it's been more than apparent that, like, this is Sean Payton kind of cooking up a little bit, and the Broncos are somehow in playoff contention. I do think it's crazy, and I think it might be bad for team culture that you're in the middle of a playoff push and you're going to bench your starting quarterback because of such a shady reason. Like, the whole thing just stinks, honestly. It reeks. And I don't know. I stand with Russ. I do not stand with Sean Payton. That's my opinions on the whole situation. I think it's got to be unprecedented, right? Well, I guess there was the Derek Carr thing last year, but I don't know. We've seen a few toxic coaches now clash with their quarterbacks. The only thing is Sean Payton is a much better coach than Josh McDaniels, but they're both kind of toxic. But I stand with Russ. I kind of feel bad for him at this point. It's so easy to just pile on him. I don't know. It's so easy to dunk on Russ. Yeah, he's kind of a weirdo, but he seems like a nice enough guy. I don't know. I don't know him as a person, obviously, but that's my thoughts. Ooh, another good one. Dak Prescott or Justin Herbert? Oh, okay. So, again, I honestly think these two guys are neck and neck, to be quite honest. Like, if I had to put together my own ranking, I would put them probably right next to each other. I think while they don't have very similar play styles, they've had very similar success in the NFL and very similar careers. I would argue Prescott has maybe reached higher highs so far. Here's what I'll say, right? So last time I did this, I think I took Herbert by a hair. I think I'm going to take Dak by a hair this time, and this is not the only reason why. Here's what I'll say, though, and I just think it's interesting. I don't know. I think it's interesting. So Dak Prescott had Kellen Moore as his offensive coordinator for the past few years, and the Cowboys' offense was pretty good with Kellen Moore. He got a lot of head coaching chatter, right? A lot of hype around him. And, a lot of people are like, man, like Kellen Moore is really elevating Dak Prescott in this Cowboys offense. What a great offensive mind, right? Ends up not getting a head coaching gig, but he goes over to LA, to the Chargers, to be their new offensive coordinator and to save Justin Herbert from the tears of Mike Lombardi. Oh, man, the Chargers are killing him. I say that tongue-in-cheek. I know Justin Herbert is good, and I know the Chargers haven't been a haven for him, right? But I just think it's interesting how all of a sudden Kellen Moore goes from, oh, he's pretty good, and look at what he's doing with Dak Prescott, to Kellen Moore is ruining Justin Herbert. Like, and that's not the only reason I'm going to take Dak over Herbert. I think Herbert has a little bit more raw talent, but again, I really value talent being converted into results and production. And I just think that at the end of the day, that discrepancy between Prescott and Herbert in their careers is enough to maybe overcome the talent, where you can't just judge Justin Herbert on his very best every single game, like his whole body of work, his whole career is not his 400-yard outburst against the Vikings. So it's close, man. It is. And I do think that in a year from now, maybe with different coaching and a healthier team, like, yeah, Justin Herbert can take that next step, right? He's very similar to Trevor Lawrence, honestly. Like, I totally get, as much as I like to poke fun at Justin Herbert supporters, I do the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. Like, I totally get it. I'm going with Dak here. It's close, though. Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, good Lord. Folks, the 2022 draft class. I honestly don't know. These are two very turnover-prone quarterbacks. Ritter's a little bit better of a runner. Howell has a more talented arm. I might go Ridder, honest. I don't know, though. It's so tough. They both make killer mistakes. You could honestly flip a coin. I'm going to go Ridder, believe it or not. As much as I like to clown on him. Sam Howell, he had a fun little run for like a few games, but it became pretty clear that defenses were going to figure him out pretty quickly, and they have. I don't know. It's been bad for the Commanders recently. Like, they've just been a truly bad team. And it's not like the Commanders' offense is just devoid of talent either, right? They've got some good players. So, Ridder by a little bit. There you go, Henry. Says, I'd go Howell here. I'm so over the Ridder experience. I totally get that. Like, the frustrations of being a Falcons fan. I don't know. I think a lot of Commanders fans might say they're over the Howell experience too, though. I mean, Sam Howell has just been so incredibly inefficient, right? I mean, no wonder he was leading the league in passing yards for a little bit. Look at how many attempts he has. And that's with him, like, getting benched and pulled from games. And those 15 games, he hasn't played the full 60 minutes in all of them. 557 attempts is just criminal. For Sam Howell, 6.5 yards per attempt. I mean, come on. But I mean, he leads the league in picks too. But again, I get it. We're picking between trash and garbage here. So Christine seconding Henry's notion there. Maybe I'm outnumbered by the Falcons fans in chat. I get that. I've watched my fair share of Desmond Ridder, unfortunately. He's still on here. Get this man off my screen. Andy Dalton, come on. Andy Dalton, Baker Mayfield's got to be Baker, right? Again, Baker's been good this year. Dalton looked fine in that spot start, but that's really all he is at this point, a spot starter. Baker Mayfield, comeback player of the year, maybe. Why not, right? Baker Mayfield. Baker on the Bucks. Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, again, when I gave my Purdy spiel, sums it up, right? Both these guys had their shot in this dream situation in the 49ers. Purdy has just been so much better. That's all you really need to know. It's a lot easier to compare two guys that have played for the same team. Purdy, Heineke, I mean, come on. Maybe Heineke would be decent. I mean, you could put most quarterbacks on the 49ers and they'd be decent, right? Maybe Heineke would be like all right, but I don't know. Heineke, I don't know that Kyle Shanahan would like coaching Taylor Heineke. Heineke kind of colors outside the lines a little bit too much for his liking. I think Kyle Shanahan would probably like have a stroke if Taylor Heineke was his quarterback. I see why they got rid of Nick Mullins, right? If you want to see what Taylor Heineke would look like in the 49ers offense, just go look at Nick Mullins when he played for the 49ers. Oh, Nick Mullins. Oh, Nicholas. Caden says, Baker has matured so much, and it's exactly what he needed. Yeah, I think you might have just missed that when I first talked about Baker. But yeah, again, I don't know him as a person, right? But it seems like he just carries himself a little bit differently, and he still has that confidence, that chip on his shoulder, but he seems like a nice young man now, if you know what I mean. He seems like a good, respectable adult, which is, I chose that word intentionally. The Browns got rid of him because they wanted an adult at quarterback. Folks, Baker Mayfield is an adult now, and he's playing maybe the best football of his career. And you know what? I'm here for it. I like Baker. Mac Jones or Bryce Young, two Bama quarterbacks. Man, I kind of went in on Mac Jones, and maybe rightfully so. If you put Mac on the Panthers, I'm not sure that he'd be able, like, I don't know that he'd be in the league. Man. Yeah, I might go Baker. I honestly might. Wait, goodness gracious. I just rebooted right there. I'm reading Caden's comments right here saying he seems changed. It's nice. Yeah, I mean, it is. Good for him, honestly. Baker Mayfield deserves props. I might go Bryce. Again, I've seen glimpses from Bryce. I don't think he might not turn into a superstar. I'm trying to think of a good comp for what he could become. And I might have to stew on that for a little bit. But I do think there is an NFL starter in there, which again is maybe not what you want to hear about your first overall pick, but he has had good performances in a bad situation. You hope that it can get better. He does have some stuff he needs to work on, right? Some of his escapability might not fully translate to the NFL. He doesn't seem to get away from guys as easily as he did in college, but the game will probably come to him. We have to remember that he's a rookie, and not every rookie can be CJ Stroud. Sometimes it takes guys a little bit to figure it out, get their sea legs. I'm going Bryce. I hope he does figure it out too. We got Gabe in here. Welcome to the stream, Gabe. Saying Baker. Yes, Baker. Baker is good. We're getting there. We're like maybe a quarter of the way through. We'll see where Baker Mayfield ends up on here, but he might sneak in. He probably might break into the top half here. Been a good year for him. Bryce or Tua, this one's pretty easily got to be Tua. I don't, not much else to say. Tua's just been better, and again, Tua's not elite. I would not say he's MVP, but you know what? He's a perfect trigger man for this offense. An offense that's predicated on timing routes, hitting their speedy receivers in stride, knowing exactly when you want to release the ball. Tua's a pretty good quarterback to have for that. Tua or Mahomes? Come on now. Oh, man. I miss Mahomes to Tyreek, even though, you know, yeah. I mean, I never go like, go Tyreek Hill, right? Because, like, there's just a moral conundrum with that. I will never stand with Tyreek. I don't know if this is a hot take. Well, it's not a hot take. But just as a pure fan of football, man, it's kind of crazy to think Mahomes and Tyreek used to play with each other. Like, Tyreek has been on the Dolphins for almost 2 seasons now, and he's been so good with them. It almost feels like a fever dream watching old Chiefs games and seeing Tyreek out there. It's like, whoa, like, dude, he used to have Mahomes throwing to him. Kind of crazy, but we do not stand with Tyreek on Dr. Pigskin, unfortunately. You need to treat women and children with respect. Gabe says Kirk Cousins is a top 5 QB. I don't know about that, man. I don't know about that. Top 10 you could talk me into, which was not a take I had at this time last year, so that's progress. Top 5, I don't know. There's some good quarterbacks in the league, but Henry says, I feel like Bryce Young could become a Tua-level player eventually. Not elite, but very solid. I like that. Yeah, you know, get him in a good offense. He could be, I don't want to say he's similar to Tua, but he kind of is. Small Bama quarterback. Caden says, you've never said go Tyreek Hill. I question that. Okay, but that's virtual Tyreek Hill in Madden. All right. That is an animated model of Tyreek Hill. That is not Tyreek Hill, the man who choked his pregnant girlfriend and literally beat his children. To answer your question, Alex, that says based on. Go look up Tyreek Hill children. I probably shouldn't be laughing at that. Woman respecters team. Message retracted. Henry says, remember when Tyreek said Tua is better than Mahomes? Oh, Tyreek. Doing the most to be like, I'm not mad that I got traded from the Chiefs. Literally the best situation a receiver could ask for with Mahomes and Andy Reid. I'm not mad. You know? He can't complain, though. That whole offense is designed for him, honestly. Would you tell his child he's animated? For those that are wondering, in this Madden league that I was talking about earlier, I did draft Tyreek Hill because I wanted to use a player with 99 speed, and I did put him at running back, and he did get over 2,000 receiving yards and 1,000 rushing yards, and he did break the internet. But again, that's animated Tyreek Hill. I'm getting put on the spot here now. All right, let's get back into the quiz because we've got a ways to go here. Shout out to everyone that's stuck in here. Man, we've been going for 2 hours strong. We've still got the gang in here. Good to have a nice, solid group of people in here. Caden, wow, not Caden. Gabe saying boo in all caps. Kyler Murray, Anthony Richardson. I would say Kyler for right now again. And again, I would like to see Kyler next year. Maybe in a different situation, maybe not. The Cardinals have an interesting decision to make with Kyler Murray. I would not blame them for sticking with Kyler because I do think his upside is a very high level. And I don't know. It's just been kind of a weird year for him. He's not been like fully healthy yet and on a bad team, but he's shown flashes. I do like Henry's take, though, if AR-15 can be elite. You would take him over Kyler. Right now, man, I don't know. Like, see, again, based off what I've seen from Richardson, I think give me a few years that I might agree with you. Richardson showed a lot, but again, there was still, like, turnovers, taking sacks he shouldn't have, missing a few throws. And that was probably to be expected, right? That was probably, like, you would take the 4 games you got from Anthony Richardson, and you'd be happy with what you saw. And again, with Shane Steichen as his coach, man, I mean, watch out. I think Richardson can be elite too. But again, I just can't feel comfortable saying, like, well, he could be elite, so therefore I'm going to take him over Kyler Murray. I'm going to take Kyler for now. But again, give me a little bit. Give me a little bit. Gabe says Rochelle, no context. Caden says, Gabe, you really don't want to hear the allegations against Coach T. Oxen. And also saying Richardson's future greater than. That I can get down with. But we're accounting for the right here, right now, as they say in High School Musical. Jordan Love or Kyler Murray? This one's a little bit tougher. I will still probably go Kyler here. It's tough because I almost feel like some of the players with not as much experience get a little bit of a short end of the stick here because I just have not seen as much of Jordan Love. And I've seen some good and some not so good. And he's come on strong, but there's still been a few games even in the stretch where it's like, he could be a little bit better. But he also hasn't had a lot to work with in the receiver room. Man, Matt LaFleur is getting those guys to play like, Matt LaFleur has done an excellent coaching job in Green Bay. That's what I'll say. Especially without Aaron Jones and Christian Watson for most of the season. Love has done a lot with not a lot, at least in the receiver room. He does have a very great coach in his corner. But, I see, that's the thing. Like, I think if you put Kyler Murray and Matt I don't know. But I don't want to play the hypothetical game. I will say this season, Love has been better. Overall, though, I still think that Kyler Murray is just better at playing the quarterback position than Jordan Love. But again, he's a tough one to evaluate. And he's tough to evaluate right now. I think we can have a clearer picture on them in about a year. But I'm going to go Kyler for right now. Henry says, I get what you're saying for sure. And that being said, Kyler is my #1 offseason wish for the Falcons. Oh, man. I mean, if you could, forget Justin Fields. If y'all could get Kyler, it might be over for the NFC South. Oh, that would be a sick offense. I'm not going to lie, man. I would have to really like watch every Falcons game then. They're on my TV every week, you know. We got to pull up good old Stream East to watch the Vikings, but I've usually got the Falcons game off on the other screen. I've been indoctrinating Christine into football a little bit, and poor Christine, she had her chance to hop on the Vikings train, but she chose the Falcons, which, you know what? I respect it. That's your hometown team. You got to ride with the Falcons. Tough first game to go to, but sorry to bring up the Josh Dobbs experience again to all the Falcons fans, but you know what? That's all I've got right now. Gabe says the Fargo infatuation. Not sure what exactly that means, but we'll take it. Shout out Fargo. Shout out the Fargo boys. Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields, gotta be Kirko easy, right? I mean, Fields is fun, but come on. I mean, Kirk has been pretty good this year, and again, you don't want to Sam Bradford it. I coined that term as like, you know, the Vikings with Sam Bradford when they had him week 1, 2017 against the Saints. Bradford played insane. And Vikings fans would go back and be like, man, if we had Sam Bradford that year, we would have won the Super Bowl. I mean, maybe. He was ripping it that year. But you can't just project their best play over a full season. And, Kirk has had great games. He's had also not some of the greatest games this year too, which I think is fair to say. But overwhelmingly, Kirk has been a top 10 quarterback this season. He probably would have been in the MVP conversation. I don't know that he would have gotten it, but he would have been there. Christine saying boo and tomato. Gabe saying, whoa, you use illegal sites now to stream games. As an NFL employee, I'm disgusted, and the Buccaneers always need fans. Well, unfortunately, until I get enough cash to get sponsored by YouTube TV and get Sunday Ticket for free, we're sailing the high seas to watch Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins play football. Although I didn't have to do that on Sunday because I was back in Fargo. I got to legally watch Nick Mullins lose us a game, which how could you have the fakest 400-yard game ever? Anyways, Pear Champ is in here saying, hello, doctor. Hope you're doing well. Just got done having my girlfriend's family over for a dinner and just finished cleaning up everything. Well, good to have you in here, Pear Champ. Hope that dinner went well, and thanks for joining me on this fine evening. We're talking NFL quarterbacks. Congratulations on the dinner indeed. Heck yeah. That's a responsible dinner host right there. That's what we like to see. All right. Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins. Two fairly similar players, I would say, and that they're just not athletic, man, and you can frazzle them a little bit. I just think Kirk's arm talent is so, I won't even say so superior, but it is superior to Goff's. And man, again, what could have been, I would have liked to see a full season of Kirk healthy with this ridiculous collection of weapons. And it's close, I will say. I think these two players are pretty similar in how they play and what they can do and their upsides and their limitations. I am going to go Kirk, though. I am. I went Kirk last time. I'm sticking with it. I think a little bit higher at Kirk now. Kenny Pickett and Jimmy Garoppolo. That's got to be one of the most random combinations out there. I might go Kenny Pickett because Jimmy G has just been so bad this year. I mean, again, it's unfortunate, but it's true. He has been bad. It's been bad to watch with the Raiders. And it's not like they don't have any talent on offense either. Maybe Josh McDaniels was just absolutely hijacking that team and it was so bad and everything, but I'm going to go Kenny Pickett by a nose hair. Kenny Pickett or Russ? Give me Russ. I think I might have went Kenny Pickett last time and I just pronounced Russell Wilson as dead and it was over and it was so done for. But I don't know, man. Russ has been solid this year. Kenny Pickett has struggled when he's been healthy. Can't stay healthy either, which is unfortunate. Give me Russ. Pearchamp says, Jared Goff got to a Super Bowl and had a shootout with the Chiefs a couple years ago. I think I would pick Goff over Kirk. Kirk is still solid. And that is definitely fair to say. I will say the highest highs that Goff has reached are probably higher than the highest highs that Kirk has reached. But I do think that Kirk Cousins, just slightly, his success has been a little bit more independent of the offenses than he's played in than Goff. And what I mean by that is that Goff had those great highs with the Rams, right? And then things kind of fell apart for a little bit. Sean McVay had to completely rework his offense. He didn't really want to stick with Goff long term. He had a few not so great years with the Rams. He gets shipped to Detroit, and pre-Detroit's vitalization, it's not like Goff was playing that great with them either. Now he's got Ben Johnson and some good receivers, which makes things easier. And this isn't even to discredit Goff, right? Like, he has had, it's clear, like when he's in a good environment with a good enough offense tailored to him and some good players, he plays at a pretty high level. I just think that Kirk has been much more consistent throughout his career. And you do raise a fair point that, like, Kirk has maybe not quite had as good of a season as 2018 Goff. But I think overall I would give the slight edge to Kirk. But hey, Maybe that's just the purple in me talking. Who knows? Burrow or Russ? I mean, pretty easily Burrow, right? I think we can all agree Burrow is top 5. His value has been demonstrated this year with how bad the Bengals were when he was hurt. And then, yeah, Browning came in for a few games, and that was fun. But come on, Burrow. Fun player. I love Joe Burrow. Fargo legend. Sam Ehlinger and Davis Mills. Davis Mills, I guess, because when he's played, he's been a little bit better than Sam Ehlinger, who played like 2 games. And at least Davis Mills like forced a slight conversation about like, oh, Davis Mills is still playing, I guess. Davis Mills or Tannehill? Gotta be Tannehill. I mean, come on. Davis Mills is not that great. And again, shout out Gabe for his Davis Mills take. I mean, again, for like a 3rd rounder, he's had a good career, right? He's still like hanging around in the league, right? Nothing wrong with Davis Mills, but overall, gotta be Tannehill. Tannehill or Josh Allen? Again, Josh Allen, number 2, right? There's only one guy I'm picking over Josh. We know this. Daniel Jones or CJ Stroud? Come on. All right, now we're getting some layups. We'll go Stroud again. Starting to pick up some speed here. We'll still chime in and talk when we maybe have some more interesting discussions to have, like this one. Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson. And what a time it is that this is even a conversation. Derek Carr versus Deshaun Watson. My goodness. I honestly am scratching my head right now trying to figure out who. Because I genuinely, I think you could make a case for both of them, as crazy as it sounds. I think the Deshaun Watson that we saw with Houston is no longer with us. That's just how it is. I don't know what you can fully chalk it up to, right? He's been back in football for long enough at this point. I just think that he's not the same player. But also, the Derek Carr of the Raiders back in 2016, nearly winning MVP, is also no longer with us. That was a bit further, though. Bit further back. I might go Derek Carr, which is crazy. It's not even like Carr has been that good. Henry says, excluding off-field stuff, I'd rather Watson here. Parachamp says, I think Watson has more potential, even if I don't like the person. Watson almost beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. And yeah, that's fair. But again, like that was 3 years ago. Like, we have not seen that player now. And I agree. Like, it's not even like I'm saying, oh, this is an endorsement of Derek Carr. I guess Watson has had a few good games this year. You guys might have convinced me. All right, fine. I'll go Watson. You got me. It's close. I think the fact that it's close is insane, though. But, yeah, Derek Carr has been pretty underwhelming. And it's not like Derek Carr's had nothing to work with in New Orleans. He's had good receivers. It just hasn't been working. For what they needed from Carr, they have not fully got. Like, the Saints, honestly, I don't know. They should be better than they are. Not by much, maybe, but they should. Deshaun Watson or Jalen Hurts? This one I feel a little bit more easy saying Jalen Hurts, right? Even though Hurts might have his limitations, again, he excels at a few things. He executes the offense well. He is the system. You can call him a system quarterback, but they made him to be the system, and it works for the most part. Although the Eagles have had some concerns. Their concerns go beyond Jalen Hurts. That defense, man. I'm not super high on the Eagles, to be honest, going into the playoffs. I'm a little worried about how they might fare, especially depending on what team they might draw. They could be on upset watch. My take is the Eagles don't make it back to the conference championship game. I don't think they make it out of the divisional, to be honest. And that's not just an indictment on Hurts. But I think we've seen Hurts as like a fringe top 10 guy. I'm curious to see how his contract ages as the Eagles maybe age a little bit and lose guys to the inevitable cap monster. We'll see. They've still got a few years, though. It's not like their window is slamming shut. But as I said in my video back in August, not for long, Enjoy it while it lasts, Philly. That's what I'll say. And I'm not even being pretentious when I say that. This is a good run for you guys. Enjoy it. Hurts or Lamar? Gotta be Lamar. I feel very confident in saying this. Man, oh man, if you put Lamar in that Eagles offense, especially last year, man. I honestly think Lamar is like better at everything than Hurts. He's a better runner and he's a better passer. I he's just so good, man. There's not much else to say. Henry says, interested in what the Saints QB plans are. Yeah, me too, to be honest. I don't know. Maybe they can draft a guy, but I don't know. And Parachamp says Jalen Hurts might have a better arm than Lamar, but Lamar has better legs. I might even disagree with that. I might say Lamar has a better arm. I think his arm is a little bit stronger. I think he's got a deeper bag of throws. I do think that some people honestly sleep on Jalen Hurts' arm. Like, Jalen Hurts is a better passer than some people give him credit for. But Lamar has just taken another leap as a passer this year. And it was on full display on Monday night. Oh, it's been a joy to watch. Lamar or Herbert? I'm going Lamar. I mean, just let's keep it rolling, right? And yeah, Lamar is in a great situation now. Both very talented quarterbacks. Lamar is just a shining example, though, of like, you know what? He had bad play calling. He had bad receivers. And he still produced at a high level. The Ravens were still a very good team. Still won a lot of games when it was like the Lamar show. And now that he's got help, I mean, again, he might be on track for another MVP. I feel comfortable taking Lamar over Herbert. Not even a knock on Herbert. I just truly think Lamar is that good. I'll go Lamar over Dak too. And you guys know me. You know I've been all aboard the Dak Prescott train. Give me Lamar. Oh, we ran through the good quarterbacks. We're back to Trey Lance and Sam Howell. We're going to go Howell here because Lance just hasn't played at this point. At least Howell has played some. Yeah, wow. Bottom of the barrel. Howell or Heineke? Am I crazy for thinking Heineke is better? I don't know. These two played on the same team. Howell this year, Heineke last year. Howell's a little flashier. And it's not like Heineke is this good, dependable quarterback either. You know what you're going to get, but it's going to be chaos. I don't know. I feel like he's been solid with the Falcons this year. I mean, shoot, they won. Yeah, give me Heineke. You know what? Give me Heineke. Heineke over Ritter. Hey, Arthur Smith, watch this. I mean, I say that. They made the switch again. They've been back and forth, but... Dalton or Heineke? I don't know, man. Maybe Heineke? Pearchamp says, I think Heineke is better now. Howell has more potential. And yeah, you know what? I've been a little mean to Sam Howell today. That is fair. This is his first year as a starter. He's still fairly young. Like, he could clean up some of the problems he has. Maybe he could get the ball out faster and, like, be less turnover prone. I do fail to, like, account for that sometimes, that, like, he could get better. So that is true. And Henry says he took the keys away. He did. He gave the keys to a slightly more responsible driver. The Ferrari is simply dented now instead of fully totaled. Alex says, bro, live flop legend. I'm assuming you're talking about Heineke? Yeah. To give the Eagles their first loss last year in primetime. As someone that maybe that enjoys the occasional Eagles loss, that was glorious. I might go Dalton here, which is crazy. Let's look at Andy Dalton here real quick, just to make sure I'm not crazy. Dalton has turned in some good performances between last year and then his spot start this year. And Dalton got thrown into the fire with the Panthers, who have just been bad. And again, it was one game, 58 attempts. But that was one of the Panthers' more competitive efforts. And again, he is not working with anything. And last year even, he was like sneaky not bad with the Saints in 2022. The Red Rifles still got a little bit of something. I would say he's been about as good as Derek Carr has. I don't know, man. He's had a good career. It's been low-hanging fruit to dunk on him, too, with the Bengals' playoff woes and whatnot, but Andy Dalton's had a good run, and I hope he's fondly remembered in Cincinnati, because he gave them some good years. We're taking Purdy over Dalton, though. I mean, we can't get too crazy, right? Purdy is good, right? We do... Ooh, here's a good one, though. Purdy or Mayfield? This one I might have to think about. This one I feel like they're actually kind of close. See, and it's so unfair, right? Because honestly, a lot of the times what I do with Purdy, like Purdy versus someone, I just imagine the other quarterback in this Niners offense right now, and how would it look? Would they be better, worse, or the same? I don't know that much would change if you swap these two guys out, to be honest. Is Baker, am I going to take Baker over Purdy? Because again, we're going just based off pure ability as a quarterback. I might agree with you, Caden. I might take, and again, I stand with Brock Purdy for the most part. I think that some of the hate he gets out is outrageous. This is not Purdy hate. What we're seeing with Baker Mayfield is a former first overall pick finally fully recover from a myriad of injuries, go into a good situation, and play high-level football. The Baker we're seeing now is probably better than any version of Baker we saw on the Browns, which might sound crazy because he did have a few good years with the Browns, but like, man, like, he's just kind of been that guy recently. Shoot, dude. I mean, if you put him on the 49ers, what would really change? I'm sorry, Brock Purdy. I like Purdy. Again, I'm rooting for Purdy. I think it'd be so sick if the 49ers won a Super Bowl. I'm taking Baker. Baker or Geno. Ooh. Ooh. This one is tough. I kind of like Geno Smith, to be honest. And again, he's been a little bit up and down. Parachamp says Purdy just needs to build up his resume. I do think that might be working against him too, is that like he's still, like he just kind of came out of nowhere, right? He doesn't have this proven track record. It's not like Geno Smith, who has been in the league for a while and then came out of nowhere and was good, where it's like we at least know Geno Smith and we knew at one point like he was a highly touted QB prospect. With Purdy, it's just like Mr. Irrelevant from Iowa State. So I get that. Geno or Baker? I might go Geno. Oh, that's tough. I like Geno. And again, he's been a little up and down. I think Baker has been maybe a little bit better this season. But Geno was so... but I don't want to put too much stock into last year. I think the fact that people were calling for Geno to get benched during this stretch was just insane. And he, past few games that he played, you know, Drew Lock came in and helped. He played last game, and they managed to escape with a win. But, I am going to go Geno, but it's close. Caden says, does it make sense to say Baker is too much of a leader for me to see him on the 49ers? Purdy seems more like Love, where he's more of a puppet than the guy. That is a very valid take. And again, like, I don't... These Shanahan coaches, man, save for McVay. McVay has been like the only Shanahan coach. It's like, you know what? Screw it. Screw this whole puppet business. I'm going to go get Matthew Stafford. And I think it's kind of funny how McVay has a ring because of that and Shanahan doesn't. Like, the 49ers could have went after Stafford too. Although they went after Trey Lance, albeit a little bit reluctantly. Kyle Shanahan had to kind of get peer pressured into that. But you're totally right. Like, Kyle Shanahan just wants like a quarterback that's going to do whatever he says. Like, yes, sir, that is the play call. I will go to the first read no matter what, sir. And again, like, what makes Purdy good is he has enough of that playmaking ability outside of it, where occasionally, even with the 49ers and this great offense and all the skilled players they have and the scheme and whatnot, it's inevitable. They're going to have to go away from the first read sometimes. They're going to have to try and make something happen. And Purdy does that just enough that makes him an enticing option for the 49ers to keep him going forward, right? That's what makes him better than Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Jimmy Garoppolo is just like a, yes, sir, I will make the read, sir. Purdy does that too, but he can add a little bit more when it's not there. That is a very valid take. The puppet quarterback. Anthony Richardson or Mac Jones? Richardson, easily. Richardson or Bryce Young? I might say Richardson again. And I've said, you know, I like Bryce Young's upside. I think we can do upside a little bit more for these rookie quarterbacks here. Richardson's ceiling is so much higher than Bryce's, and their floors are pretty similar. Again, Richardson's so good as a rusher, and we've seen this now in the NFL. Good rushers have high floors. Justin Fields has a decently high floor because of how good of a runner he is. Jalen Hurts had it before he broke out. Lamar had it before he broke out. If you're that good of a runner, you can compensate for some passing woes. And honestly, Richardson has less passing woes than I think some people think. So I am just so excited to see how his career develops. I just hope he can stay healthy. I am going to take Tua over Richardson, though. Again, Tua is a quarterback's quarterback. He is a slight puppet, but he's shown potential to be a puppet that comes to life. I like that. You've got the puppets and then the puppets that come to life. Tua can be a puppet that comes to life, not consistently, but we've seen it, man. I need to see more of the Chargers game from this year, not last year. Last year's Chargers game is the worst of Tua. This year's Chargers game, the best of Tua. If we can just get a little bit more of that, Tua can go up even further. That being said, I'm taking him over Richardson. And we're going to take him over Jordan Love, too. And I think Love's upside is high enough where he could make this a really interesting conversation in like a year or two. But give me Tua. Again, with all the puppet talk, Tua is elite with accuracy and timing and anticipation, right? Almost, I don't know. I'm not going to say that accuracy is an underrated skill. No, that's a terrible. It's not underrated. It's properly rated. Pinocchio. Yes. Pinocchio. Kyler or Tua? Ooh. See, I might go Kyler here. Both are smaller in stature. Kyler offers a lot more athleticism. I think Kyler has a little bit liver of an arm too. I do think Tua does some of the boring stuff a little bit better. A lot can be made about like, oh, Kyler Murray plays Call of Duty, doesn't watch film, blah, 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 right? Throw that out the window. Pretend that story was never a thing. Tua is still the smarter quarterback. Like, Tua is just a very heady player, and that does count for something, but man, oh, I don't know. Kyler has put together some great play, and if you put Kyler on this Dolphins offense, I think he would add an extra dimension of a running attack. Oh, could you imagine zone reads with Kyler with all that speed? Mahomes, easy. Mahomes, easy. Sorry, Stafford, but Garoppolo or Justin Fields? I'm going to go Justin Fields here, to be honest. These are like polar opposite players, and that Jimmy can be good in structure if the structure is good, but everything else just whereas Justin Fields has, again, that higher floor because of his running ability. He can play make a little bit, and again, like, he shows enough flashes to keep me interested and be like, like, maybe there's something here. But again, he's running out of time. The Bears need to make a decision. I could totally understand if they move on from him. He'll start somewhere next year. I don't think Jimmy will. That's what I'll say. Pearchamp says, also, I heard a comment that was saying how ironic it is that with Lamar and Tua being injury prone and not many of the quarterbacks, they are one of the quarterbacks that are not out this season. Yeah, no, that is kind of crazy with all the injury concerns with those two guys. Tua's concussions, Lamar, getting banged up the past few years, kind of sinking the Ravens season because of his injuries. And yet, with all these guys going down, they're the guys that have been staying in the lineup every week. And it just kind of goes to show how fluky injuries can be sometimes. So, but it has been a shame how many injuries there have been this year. We'll take Fields over Pickett. Ooh, Fields or Russ? I might... Oh, will I go Russ? Will I? Yeah, but not by much. Goff or Russ? Pretty easily Goff. I mean, we saw, hey, again, both Goff and Russ, quarterbacks, both with great offensive minds as their play callers. And Goff blew the doors off of the Broncos when they played last week. So, I mean, I don't know, man. You can knock Goff a little bit, but you also have to give him credit for being good at the things he's good at. I will take Burrow over Goff, though, and Burrow over Kirk. Again, Kirk is good, not top 5. He's not in that Burrow tier. He is good, but there's just levels to it. We'll go Burrow over Rodgers too. Honestly, Burrow kind of plays like Rodgers a little bit. Maybe not quite as talented, obviously, but similar play styles with how they like to move and throw on the move a little bit. And they'll hit those big plays downfield. And they got that swagger to their game that I like in a quarterback. Daniel Jones or Sam Ehlinger? I mean, at least Daniel Jones can be competent at times. I don't know. I'm surprised Sam Ehlinger is still on this quiz, to be honest. Davis Mills or Daniel Jones? We'll go DJ. Look at this progress. We're over halfway done now. Look at that. Got 6 people still in here. We're cruising. Daniel Jones or Ryan Tannehill? Here's where I'm going to go Tannehill. Another group of similar players, honestly. But it's tough. They've both kind of had rough seasons. But I think if my life was on the line for one game, if I had to pick between these two, first of all, tell my family I love them. Second of all, I'm taking Tannehill. That was a bit mean, but Pear Champion here again with another great comment saying, also, it seems like there's an MVP candidate curse going around with Josh Allen early on and then going on a losing streak. Jalen Hurts for a week, then they lose. Dak, then they lose. And now with Purdy. Yeah, so does that mean the Ravens are going to lose? They do play the Dolphins, which will be a massive game, by the way, for seeding implications. Very excited for that one. That's an excellent observation. Like, as soon as a guy picks up steam for the MVP, they lose. So you know what? You heard it here first. Put the house on the Dolphins. The MVP curse. It's a thing. Shout out Pearchamp for coining it. Tannehill or Brissett? Give me Jacoby Brissett. Honest to goodness, man. I am a big fan of Jacoby Brissett. Not enough to put him over Josh Allen, though. Allen over Stroud. Allen over Lawrence. Those were pretty easy. Layups. Trey Lance or Derek Carr? As underwhelming as Derek Carr has been, you gotta take him over Trey Lance, right? Lance is gonna be very low on this. Breaks my heart. Horns up forever. We love Trey Lance, but we gotta be honest, right? We gotta be honest. Whew! I've hit a second wind here. Let's go. Derek Carr, Sam Howell. Derek Carr. Yay. I guess I should express my beef with Sam. Not even beef. I think I might have already said it. But again, Sam Howell, gaudy counting stats, very inefficient, right? Turnover prone, takes sacks that he shouldn't. An immature quarterback. Not that I think he's like a man-child. Like, I'm sure he seems like a fine person. I don't know him. But immature in the sense that, like, he just doesn't do a lot of NFL quarterback things. We'll go Derek Carr over Desmond Ridder, right? Classic NFC South battle. And over Heineke, but not by much. Also, sorry, Pearchamp, I completely missed your question earlier. I'm seeing it again here now. What team do you think has the worst QB situation? Well, I would say for this season, it's been the Jets, right? Now that's with Aaron Rodgers' injury in mind. I think they certainly handled it the worst by not acting on it after Rodgers went down. They had Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle, which was about as bad as it sounds. I would say outside of that, the Falcons is pretty rough, to be honest. The Giants is pretty rough. And the Giants is even more rough than the Falcons, I would say, because they're paying Daniel Jones a lot more than Desmond Ritter's getting paid. I would say that those are some strong candidates right there for worst QB situation. The Raiders is not ideal. It's Jimmy Garoppolo and Aiden O'Connell and Brian Hoyer. That's not the greatest either. But at least they're not super locked into any of those guys. Yeah. Some rough QB situations out there right now. Good backup quarterback. It's a good thing to have. Ask me. I'm a Vikings fan. Not to make everything about the Vikings, but Andy Dalton, Derek Carr. I'm not going to pick Andy Dalton. No, but it's close, man. Again, Dalton was on the Saints last year. Carr was on the Saints this year. They've been pretty similar. I think the expectations were a little bit higher for Derek Carr, so that's why it feels a little bit more underwhelming. I will give the slight edge to Carr, but man, honestly, not by much. We'll go Purdy over Carr. See, yeah, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that Brock Purdy is Derek Carr. No, he's obviously better than that. There are some people that might try and tell you otherwise, but don't listen to them. We'll go Purdy over Watson too. We will not go Purdy over Hurts though. This one, they're the how do I put this? I don't know. They're in a similar spot in that they're both, I think, good quarterbacks that are just very elevated with the team around them, and that can make them a lightning rod for criticism. I will go Jalen Hurts here because I do think he is just a little bit better than Brock Purdy. But again, honestly, there's a smaller gap between these two players than I think some people might believe, personally. I don't think that Hurts is like miles better than Purdy, but we will go Hurts. We will go Hurts over Baker. Baker's been fun, but again, you can't disrespect Hurts. We'll go Hurts over Geno too. He's on a nice little run right here. Jimmy G or Mac Jones. Woof. I think this one broke me. We've been streaming for almost 3 hours now. This is the one that has snapped the wires in my brain. Parachamp says, Hurts and Purdy are good quarterbacks for the system they run, but Hurts is more impactful for the offense, I would say. And I 110% agree with how the Eagles base their offense on getting those tough yards and just moving the chains and then occasionally hitting the big play over the top. That's Jalen Hurts right there, man. You got to give credit to the Eagles for recognizing what they have in Jalen Hurts and doing everything in their power to help him out. Here's what I'll say about Purdy and Hurts. They're both being maximized in their offenses. Both teams are squeezing as much juice out of the orange as they can with Purdy and Hurts if they were oranges. The cup is full with their abilities. Give me Jimmy, I guess. Jimmy or Bryce Young? We'll go Bryce. Bryce Young or Kenny Pickett? I might go Bryce, and it's tough. You never want to fall into Bryce Young has maybe been, I don't even want to say he's been worse than Kenny Pickett, though. He really hasn't. Yeah, give me Bryce Young. Also, sorry. Checking something here real quick. But Bryce Young, Justin Fields. Gotta go Fields. Again, just Fields seems to give a little bit more as a runner, and that counts for something. I like when a quarterback has like a really elite trait that at least they can turn to. Fields has that a little bit more than Bryce. Bryce's elite trait was his mobility and escapability to be able to create, throw on the run. His superpower, quote unquote, hasn't translated as well to the NFL as Fields' has. Alex says Jimmy G has done more than Mac ever has. Yeah, he has. That is a spot-on conclusion, I would say. Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson. I might be irresponsible and go Richardson. And I say irresponsible because Richardson has played 4 games, right? I believe 4 games. Yeah, 4 games. And again, some high highs and some low lows. And, I think in this game he got injured. I think in both of these games, actually, right? Wait, where's the Rams game? Oh, right there. He was pretty good in this Rams game. The completion percentage obviously doesn't get you out of your seat, but he really turned it on in that 4th quarter in the Rams game, and he almost got a big win for the Colts there. And I would have loved to see him play a little bit more in the season and just, I feel like he would have gotten better even throughout the season. Forget the jump from one year to the next. Just getting a more NFL game experience. I think we might have seen him grow a little bit. Again, if I were to pick Richardson, it's based off his hypothetical ceiling. That's just not my MO. Again, ask me in a year. This might be a different answer, but we're going Fields for now. Fields or Love? I'm going to go Love. I don't know. I I haven't picked Love too many times here, but that's not to say I haven't liked what I've seen from Jordan Love. That Thanksgiving game against the Lions has been probably his high point so far. Go back and watch that. That was a good quarterback performance. And he was pretty good against the Chiefs, too. It was a nice little full circle moment for him. First start against the Chiefs a few years ago, not pretty. To go beat the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, get the Packers fans riled up. Yeah, we'll go Love over Russ, too. Yeah, I had to think about it for a sec. Again, Love has been playing like a good, 15, 16 range right now, and you could probably say that about a lot of guys, so it might be a little crowded there, but we'll see. I will not take Love over Goff, though. Goff is probably. I feel pretty good about Goff being the second best quarterback in the NFC North. Love has shown a lot of promise, though. Goff or Tua? I might go Tua. I think I will go Tua. Again, I think Tua's ceiling is a little bit higher. And Tua's best performances are a little bit better than Goff's. They both have very high variance. They can be due for a few bad games, but I like Tua's game a little bit more. Parachamp asks, do you think Fields is the answer for the Bears? They basically repeated what they did last year with more weapons. I would draft a quarterback for the Bears and get a new head coach. Well, they do have the first overall pick, and to be honest, I don't know when they're going to get that again because they have come on strong as of late. And, I actually talked about this for my Vikings-Bears stream back in November, late November, right? That Monday night game, the Monday night tragedy. And at the time, I said, maybe you should stick with Fields because he's been coming along a little bit. I see the vision. You can keep him for another year. Keep him on that rookie deal. However, it's not like Fields has been a world beater. Again, he shows flashes of talent every week, but then he also follows it up with just not fully looking there. Like he should be the guy you go forward with and give a second contract to if you want to be a competing team. And so if you really are sold on Caleb Williams or Drake May as the guy, which, I haven't watched a ton of them yet, but, most people I trust that cover the draft say that, yeah, they are pretty good prospects. They're as good of prospects as we've seen in a few years at least, right? So I guess I totally get if you're the Bears, right? They're not going to have another opportunity to probably take a quarterback like this for a while because their defense has really started to come on and they've been playing better football. So I would not blame them for trying to see what they could get for a trade for Justin Fields and then taking a quarterback. As for their head coach, he was on a very hot seat for a while. And Matt Eberflus is not exactly the most flashy name out there. And I think the worst thing for him was that his first year with the Bears and probably first few games of this past year, Eberflus was a defensive guy, came over from the Colts defensive coordinator, defense, and the defense was bad. But ever since the Montez Sweat trade, their defense has been playing pretty good, and they've got some exciting young players on there with Sweat and Jalen Johnson, and they brought in Edmonds and TJ Edwards. I'm starting to see the vision with this defense a little bit. I think they have, Kyler Gordon too, Jaquan Brisker. So I honestly think with how the defense has developed, Matt Eberflus might have saved his job, actually. And I was kind of thinking he should be fired too, but he did himself a lot of favors with how the defense has been playing ever since they got Montez Sweat. I'll say that. Kirk Cousins or Tua Tagovailoa? I might go Kirk here, which I would not have done last year. And it's Kirk's arm just has so much to it. It does. And again, they're both quarterbacks that are not perfect. I'm going to go Kirk. Kirk or Kyler? Kirk or Stafford, I'll draw the line, though. Give me Stafford over Kirk. I feel pretty good about this. The reason I went Kirk over Kyler and Tua is I think he just offers a little bit more consistency. And he's honestly one of the best throwers of the football in the league. But you know who else is Matthew Stafford. I'm going Stafford over Rodgers too. Am I going Stafford over Burrow? No, not quite. But I genuinely think it's close. It is truly close between these two. Remember, this is not even just Matthew Stafford's having a random good year. He was hurt last year. The year before, he won the Super Bowl. And he put up some insane numbers. I mean, Matthew Stafford has been doing this. And it's clear that last year was just an aberration, man. Yeah, 41 touchdowns, almost 5,000 yards. He won the Super Bowl, gets injured. Now he's back to being him. He's as good as ever. John Matthew Stafford, go Dogs. I almost picked him there. I'm not picking him over Burrow, but it's close. You could talk me into it. Burrow or Mahomes. Fun little rivalry here. I like the rivalry between the Chiefs and the Bengals. I hope it has some staying power. I think we need more toxic rivalries in the NFL. People are too nice to each other in the NFL. Like, players are too nice. Coaches are too nice. I kind of like the trash talk between these two franchises. Two great box office quarterbacks. Mahomes is better, but I will say, and like, I would never use this as ammunition for Burrow over Mahomes. No quarterback has been able to consistently beat Mahomes' Chiefs like Burrow has. And that is impressive, at least. I will say that. I'll give Burrow credit for that, but it is Mahomes. Trey Lance or Sam Ehlinger? We're going to go Lance just based off ability, I guess. Neither have really seen the field much. At least Lance can run. He has a strong arm. But Lance or Davis Mills? I'll go Davis Mills. Oh, man. Trey Lance is going to be like second to last on here. Sam Howell or Davis Mills? I've been picking against Sam Howell a lot, but I will give him the edge here over Mills. I do think that Sam Howell has a wider variance of outcomes where that Sam Howell could at least turn in an exciting performance that could put up some points occasionally. He's just not consistent. And again, maybe he does clean it up and get a little bit better. But I think we're now seeing why he fell all the way to the 5th round. A lot of those concerns that were in college have come to fruition. Sam Howell or Daniel Jones? Ooh. Man, I will say I'm going to go Daniel Jones. Not by much. Parachamp asks, which rivalry do you like more, Bills and Chiefs or Bengals and Chiefs? I'm going to say this. I think that Bengals and Chiefs, there's more real hatred there. I honestly think that there's like a little bit more passion and dislike. The teams dislike each other a little bit more. With Bills and Chiefs, and the fan bases too. Bills and Chiefs fan bases obviously have animosity too, but I feel like there's more of a mutual respect between the Bills and the Chiefs. That is tough, honestly, because I feel like the Bills and the Chiefs have been like the defining rivalry of football over the past 5 years, at least in the AFC, right? We had the divisional round classic. We've had the Bills come in and win a few regular season games. The Chiefs have got them in the playoffs a lot. I think the big thing that gives Bengals Chiefs juice is that the Bengals did get the Chiefs in the playoffs once. They beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead to go to the Super Bowl. However, I don't know. I think when it's all said and done, when we look back, I do think Bills Chiefs is going to be remembered a little bit more. Maybe it gets carried a little bit by that instant classic divisional round. I don't know, though. Bengals Chiefs is right there. Which one do I like more? Oh. All right, on the count of 3, I'm going to pick one. 3, 2, 1. Bengals Chiefs, but not by much. Oh, they're both great, though. We've been treated. We're spoiled sometimes. Caden says, watching Davis Mills gets picked over Lance hurt. Yeah, that's just how it be, man. Again, I gotta be fair. It hurts, but that's just how it be. Ritter or Daniel Jones? Daniel Jones. Not exactly singing the praises of Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones kind of by default. At least Daniel Jones was able to be a passenger last year. Like, Desmond Ritter hasn't even been able to be a passenger. That's his problem. Jones or Heineke? We'll go Daniel Jones. We'll go Dalton over Daniel Jones, though. Tannehill or Dalton? Here's the thing. I honestly feel like Dalton has been, like, at least all right over the past 2 seasons now. He hasn't as big of a sample size, though, obviously. Not like Tannehill's played a lot this year, though. And there's a reason he got benched. I'm going Dalton. Call me crazy. Maybe I like Dalton too much. I don't know. Brissett over Dalton. I'm not going to pick Brissett over Carr, am I? I am. This is my channel. I'm picking Brissett over Watson too. You guys might have learned at this point. I'm actually kind of high on Jacoby Brissett. I honestly thought that maybe he should have gotten a starting role. I'm a little confused why he took a backup job with Washington, and now he's finally getting it. I will be monitoring how he plays. I don't know. Pearchamp with a hot take. Trevor Lawrence will not win another playoff game. That is quite spicy, I will say. I will say for this year, yeah, he might not win one. The Jaguars are kind of stumbling around right now. Lawrence has been banged up. I'm not sure if you were in here when I gave my Trevor Lawrence spiel, whatever, however you pronounce it. I think that some people's view of Trevor Lawrence might be slightly clouded with how he's played the past few weeks. And they had that Island game, that primetime game against the Ravens where he did not look the greatest. And some of that you can chalk up to injury, both to Lawrence and also Christian Kirk. And again, like, I will for sure say, like, Trevor Lawrence has not taken that MVP leap that I thought he would this year. I'm willing to take the L on that. I do think, though, like, prior to him getting hurt, the 2 games prior to him getting hurt, the Jaguars were finally starting to put it together on offense. They looked really good in their games against the Titans and Texans. And then they looked pretty good against the Bengals, and they started to deal with some injuries. And then the wheels have fallen off the past few weeks. But I don't know. Trevor Lawrence has got a lot of football left in him. I think that is bold to say. I don't know. That is a hot take, though. I like hot takes when they're actually hot. And Caden says Madden God. I'm assuming in reference to this man right here. Brissett or Purdy? We'll go Purdy. We will. Again, I like Brissett, but we'll go Purdy. Purdy or Stroud, though. We're going Stroud. Stroud over Baker, too. How about the instant classic that these 2 quarterbacks gave us? All the talk was on C.J. Stroud because he was breaking records, and that was like the C.J. Stroud I've arrived game. But Baker Mayfield was awesome in that game, too. Stroud was only one half of the shootout. Baker was good, but I'm taking Stroud over him. And Stroud over Geno. Stroud or Hurts? I might take Stroud. I probably will. I genuinely think he's been better. And Stroud can run a little bit, but he's just such a talented thrower of the football. And it's not like the Texans' offense has been bad. It hasn't. Like, Nico Collins has emerged as a good receiver. And Tank Dell has emerged as a great option. It's not like C.J. Stroud is working with nothing, right? Like we thought he was going to be. But Stroud has just been so exceptional. Again, he's a rookie. And he's played only 13 games, I think. But just some of his numbers are mind-boggling. And again, the fact that he's been playing so clean, not turning the ball over while pushing the ball down the field like he has been impressive. And you make a good point, Fairchamp, that Hurts absolutely is more proven than Stroud. But I don't like. What else does Stroud have to prove, though? I don't like. He's just been like such a joy to watch. Maybe he takes a step back, sophomore slump, defenses figure him out. I'm definitely like, there's a chance that happens. But as of right now, based off what I've seen, man, I might take Stroud over Herbert, too. I mean, seriously. It's too bad he got injured. When is he coming back, right? Because I would like to see him play again. I would love to see this Texans team sneak into the playoffs. He's expected to practice. It was encouraging to see him, D'Amico Ryan says. We'll see when he comes back. But if he can sneak back in and get the Texans into the playoffs, I would love to see playoff CJ Stroud. Am I going to take him over Herbert? This one is close. I might give the slight edge to Herbert. This one is almost a toss-up. Mile Marker says, good night. Have fun with the QB results. NFC North champs 11-4. Good night, Mile Marker. Thanks for tuning in. As always, keep your eyes posted. You know what? I'll probably make a community post, too, of the screenshot of the results, so you can go check them out. But You have a good night, man. You get to go to sleep a division champion. Screw it. I'm going Stroud. We're going to let it rip. Oh, that was crazy, though. Am I going to go Stroud over Dak? Not quite, but he's right there. Dak or Trevor? Dak. And I love Trevor. We'll take Josh over Dak, though, for sure. Josh over Lamar, but it's close. Ellinger or Mac Jones. I think Sam Ellinger is going to get last place, to be honest. We'll go Mac over Trey Lance, too, and over Davis Mills. Mac Jones or Sam Howell? Sam Howell. We'll go Jimmy over Howell. Jimmy over Ritter, not by much. Heineke or Jimmy? Jimmy. Jimmy or Daniel Jones? Daniel Jones. A little rapid fire right there. Gonna get a swig of water. We're making progress. Look at that. We're getting there. This has got to be one of my longest streams ever. But you know what? I love it. I love it. We still got a poppin' stream in here. Daniel Jones or Kenny Pickett? Kenny Pickett. I don't know. He at least tries to make more plays than Daniel Jones. I say some of that is like Brian Daboll, like just putting a muzzle on Daniel Jones. Some of that is Daniel Jones just doesn't try to make plays too. You know? Pickett or Tannehill? Tannehill, not by much. Tannehill or Young? We'll go Bryce Young here for this one, though. Kind of going on gut feeling for some of these. Bryce Young or Andy Dalton? Is that rude to say? Well, here's the thing, because Bryce Young is also coming off a great game. Andy Dalton had a pretty good game with the Panthers. We'll go Bryce. Yeah, we will. Bryce or Derek Carr? Carr, but not by much. Carr or Richardson? I might go. I probably will go Richardson here. I think I've seen enough from Anthony Richardson to call him better than Derek Carr. Derek Carr is not quite like the ultimate prime meridian like Dalton scale, if you guys are familiar with that. I referenced it in my first video, actually, but it was coined by the late, great Chris Wessling, who used to be on the Around the NFL podcast, one of the heroes. And it was back when Andy Dalton was on the Bengals, and pretty much Andy Dalton was like the perfect median of quarterback player. If your quarterback is better than Andy Dalton, you've got a franchise quarterback. If he's worse, you need a new quarterback. Derek Carr is probably a little bit behind where the Dalton line would be, but he's like his own line, I guess. I don't know, the Carr line. Watson or Richardson? Give me Richardson. Richardson or Brissett? Brissett or Fields? Ooh. We'll go Justin Fields. Not by much, though. That's tough. I almost regret that one a little bit. Fields or Purdy? Purdy. Purdy or Russ? Purdy. Purdy or Love? Here's an interesting one. Here's one that we have to sit and think about and talk this through a little bit. Love has done a decent amount with a lot less. And I think Love has a little bit more natural ability than Purdy. Screw it. We're gonna go Jordan Love. Love or Baker? Ooh. These two had a nice game. The Buccaneers won. Now you can't just go head to head. The Buccaneers won, therefore go Baker, right? Some of that can be blamed on Joe Barry, Packers defensive coordinator, which yikes, he's had a rough go of it recently. Oh. Give me Love, honestly. We'll go Geno over Love, though. I think I'm starting to see the order come together a little bit. I think as fun as good as Baker's been, he has been a little inconsistent, and so has Love, but I don't know. I almost regret that one, too, but whatever. We're almost there. Geno or Goff? Geno or Jared? Rolls off the tongue a little bit better. We'll go Goff here. I think that Goff has just I won't say a much higher floor than Geno, but a higher floor. Geno has been a little inconsistent this year. Well, give me Goff. Goff or Hurts? We'll go Hurts, though. I feel pretty comfortable with that. Hurts or Tua is an interesting one. We'll get to that after checking in with Pear Champ here. Says defense did not help and Baker had better weapons. Yeah, I mean, Baker does get the throw to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. That certainly helps. And yeah, Joe Barry, man. I don't know how you do it, Parachamp. I don't know how you do it. Joe Barry. He's got to be gone, right? There's no way they keep him now. They were calling for his head last year. Hurts or Tua is a tough one, honestly. They're honestly pretty similar in caliber and in talent, I would say. And they're also similar in talent around them and in like being in a good situation. I might go Tua. Oh, I don't know though. Cuz Tua also, I said it's not just week 1 against the Chargers. Tua played a pretty good game against the Cowboys last week. They got a big win. They finally beat a team over 500. Nah, I'm going to go Hurts. It's really close, though. Hurts or Kyler? Kyler. That's crazy. We'll go Herbert over Kyler, though. Kyler Murray might end up pretty high on here. Kirk or Herbert? Herbert's natural ability puts him slightly over the top of Kirk. And again, similar enough players. Kind of. Herbert or Rodgers? I might. See, again, it's so tough to get a read on Rodgers, honestly. I normally would say Rodgers, but yeah. I honestly don't know, because Rodgers could go out and be bad next year. Like, that is a possibility. I'll believe it when I see it. Rodgers or Stroud? Oh my gosh. How high is Stroud going to be on this list? Like, Stroud this year has just been better than Rodgers was last year, but Rodgers has to be better, right? You know what? We're going to go Rodgers. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Rodgers or Lawrence? Rodgers, right? If I'm going to go Rodgers over Stroud, I got to go Rodgers over Lawrence. We'll go Dak over Rodgers, though. Dak or Stafford? Oh, here's the ultimate Dr. Pigskin showdown right here. The two quarterbacks I've probably talked about more than any other this whole season. Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford. And you know what? I'm going to go Stafford. I am. Talk about a heel turn. And maybe it's recency bias, but also who Stafford doesn't seem to be as prone to the stinker as Dak does either. I don't know. Like that's got to count for something. I think I trust Stafford a little bit more. Stafford or Lamar, these two put on a great show when they played. I've been reading a lot of interesting tweets, and I'm starting to kind of see it. I think it was Derek Klassen. I don't know if any of you guys follow him. I think he's still with Bleacher Report, maybe not, but also like the 33rd Team, which is a website. But he does a lot of quarterback charting. And he made an interesting point that honestly, these two players are more similar than some people would think. And that, like, obviously Stafford isn't nearly as big of a running threat as Lamar. But the way they behave and operate in the pocket, the way that they move around, they keep their eyes downfield looking for a throw. And it really kind of stood out in their game against each other. And kind of some of the sneaky similarities in how they play. Again, obviously Lamar is a much bigger threat to run. But I see the similarities in how they move in the pocket. It's kind of cool how Lamar's game has evolved. I am going to take Lamar over Stafford. I'm going to take Lamar over Burrow too. Burrow, he has been very fortunate to throw to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and you can't hold that against him too much because on the other end of the coin, it's like, well, yeah, of course, like, how do I put this? Like, you could say, like, oh, like, of course he's putting up big numbers and he's winning. He has all these great receivers. But, like, if he wasn't, then that would be a problem. And you'd say that he's not good. And so when he is doing it, you can't penalize him for it too much, right? Same coin with Purdy and everyone else. But that being said, Lamar is really just a one-man offense with his rushing abilities too. And that you could put him into any team, honestly, and I think he'd be good. And we're seeing it again this year. Parachamp says Dak has a worse running back. Probably, yeah. The Cowboys' rushing attack hasn't been quite as good as the Dolphins this year. They do have that which they can turn to. The Cowboys do kind of miss that second back like Ezekiel Elliott. And Zeke has kind of fallen off, and no, he's not the back he once was, but they could use a good complement to Tony Pollard, and Rico Dowdle has kind of emerged as that, but they're still just missing it a little bit. Mahomes over Lamar, Mahomes over Allen, and there we go. We did it. All right. Whew. After about 3.5 hours, a lot of talking. Thank you guys so much for following me along on this journey as we have now completed for the second time in Dr. Pigskin history the Stay Hot, a sports podcast QB ranking quiz. And let's go read these names out. And I'm looking at some of this, and I think that if I made my own list, I might have rearranged some names around, but I can't complain too much with what I've got here. So, Patrick Mahomes at 1. Yeah. Easy. Josh Allen at 2. Agree. Lamar at 3. Agree. Burrow at 4. Sure. Stafford at 5. I can get down with that. Prescott 6. Aaron Rodgers is what throws everything for a loop because he takes up a spot, right? And I have him at 7, which I think can be fair. But again, I just need to see Aaron Rodgers play to feel really good about that because the way he played last year, no, he probably wasn't the 7th best quarterback in the league. But I still think he has it in him. I don't know. If he played this year, it would not have shocked me if he was like the 7th best quarterback in the league. Trevor at 8. See, if I made this list, this would probably be Herbert or Stroud right here. I think I'd have Trevor down at 10. I don't think that I would have Trevor above both Stroud and Herbert, to be honest. It's tough, though. I think there's a world where Trevor can get back up to 8 or even up to this range, but he just hasn't fully taken that step in the aggregate last year. If you count his full season, not just his half season, 8 was probably fair for him last year. 8 might be a little high for him this year, but again, taking in his whole body of work, I guess. But it's a tough look having him over Stroud and Herbert at 9 and 10. Yeah, I might have, but then again, I literally made the picks, so who knows. Kirk at 11, okay, right outside the top 10, no problem with that, right? You could maybe say, hey, put Kirk over Trevor too, I get that. But at 11, no problem. Kyler at 12, Hurts at 13, wow. That is a little bit lower than I expected, but also I'm seeing some of the names ahead of him, and I kind of get it. Kyler might be a little controversial. Kirk might be a little bit controversial. Trevor might be, but I can at least see the vision. Tua at 14, Goff 15, Geno 16, Jordan Love 17, Baker Mayfield 18, Brock Purdy 19. All right. That is a little low. But also I get it. Again and again, I made the list. Russ at 20, Fields at 21, Brissett, Richardson, Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr, Bryce Young, Andy Dalton, Ryan Tannehill, Kenny Pickett, Daniel Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo, Taylor Heineke, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, Mac Jones, Davis Mills, Trey Lance, and Sam Ehlinger coming in at last place. Poor guy, back-to-back times, last place. So there you have it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I think we are going to call it after that. I said we'll do some Sporkle quizzes, but I think that might get its own stream too. I think that deserves its own stream. It is now 10:30 where I'm at. It's 11:30 for a lot of my friends over on the Eastern time zone. So I think we're going to wrap it up. My voice hurts a lot too, so I'm going to drink a lot of water and rest it up. I've been talking nonstop now for 3.5 hours, but this was a joy, and I'm glad you guys were able to spend your Wednesday night with me talking some ball, doing another little quiz, and you know what? I'm going to endure the criticism and the online haters. I say that as if I have any. I don't. But I think I just might take a screenshot of this and post it up on the community posts on YouTube and on my Twitter. If you're not following, be sure to follow Dr. Pigskin. And I've got an announcement coming on there soon too, so 2024 is going to be the year of the doctor, man. I'm excited for it. I'm going to keep grinding on this next video. I'm excited to see where that takes me. I've found a lot of great stuff, done a lot of great research today. We're already rolling downhill for it, baby. Pearchamp says, take care, doctor. Glad to catch some of the stream. Wow, see, you can tell I need my sleep. But thank you, man. It's always a pleasure to have you and all the other folks in here. That's going to be all for me today. Until next time.